One of Big Brother's biggest draws that separates itself from other competitive reality TV shows is the fact that we are given exclusive 24/7 access to watch the game play out live. Unlike Survivor or The Challenge, where everything is pre-recorded months in advance, Big Brother is happening in real time, and all it takes is one Paramount Plus account, and you can watch the live feed cameras inside the house 24 hours a day. Or at least that's what they say. Although it's touted as 24/7 access, it isn't actually. Sometimes the feeds turn off, and you can't see what's happening. And that's the main basis for this entire series. You see, sometimes in Big Brother, things just don't add up. Whether there's something fishy about a particular player's actions, or there's a series of events that play out a bit too perfectly to be a coincidence, I refuse to turn a blind eye and just accept it. I go looking for answers. When Big Brother hides the truth, we fill in the blanks ourselves. Over the last 3 years, I have dedicated myself to finding and unearthing as many Big Brother secrets as I could. The results? Well, let's just say that I found 50 different conspiracy theories. Some of them were wildly popular ones, like the infamous theory that Helen Kim was pushed off the wall in Big Brother 15. But there were others out there that had extremely little coverage, like how Big Brother 5 had other twin twists planned, as well as some other very suspicious casting stories. So this video here is the culmination of all my efforts, my 10-part Big Brother Conspiracy Theories series taped together and slapped into one 2-hour and 40-minute binge pie. If this is your first time seeing a conspiracy video, then you're in luck because everything is right here. If this isn't your first rodeo and you've been following along since the beginning, then hey, why not watch all of them again? Before we begin, all I ask is that you go ahead and check if you're subscribed to the channel. We're about 12K away from hitting my goal of 100,000 subscribers, and every sub helps. Now, without further ado, sit back and enjoy 50 of Big Brother's most enticing and mysterious conspiracy theories.
It is the hardest competition yet, but my Big Brother life is on the line, so I'm staying on this plank for as long as it takes.
Helen,
Bye guys, love you!
Helen, you are perfect.
So, let's start things off with a big one. The first conspiracy theory that we'll talk about today is the theory that production forced Porsche to open Pandora's box in Big Brother 13 in an attempt to keep both Jordan and Rachel safe. This is probably one of the most well-known and talked about conspiracy theories in all of Big Brother, and for good reason. It was at the final 6 of Big Brother 13, and Porsche had won the HOH. Porsche's 2 targets were the last 2 remaining veterans in the house, Rachel and Jordan, and given Porsche's position, she had the power to guarantee that one of them went home. But Pandora's box was presented to Porsche, which she accepted, and the consequence was that the duo's twist would come back into the game. Rachel and Jordan then became a duo, and once Rachel won the veto, Rachel was able to take both herself and Jordan off the block, keeping them both safe in a week where one of them should have been guaranteed to be evicted. Already, it seemed a bit suspicious that the instant the last 2 remaining veterans were in danger, a twist that could save both of them was brought into the game, but it gets even more concerning once Porsche revealed on the live feeds that she was forced into opening the box. It's been stated that Porsche did not want to open Pandora's box when it was presented to her, but production wouldn't accept that as an answer. They kept Porsche up in the HOH room for hours and wouldn't leave her alone until she changed her mind and opened the box, which she eventually did, and that's what unleashed the duo's twist back into the house. Now, this is one that I definitely believe. Earlier in that day, Porsche said that she would not open Pandora's box for $10,000, so it's odd that she would have willingly opened the box when the incentive was $10,000. I really do believe that Porsche did not want to open Pandora's box, but the constant urging by the production team eventually led to her giving in. However, I don't think it was technically forced. The producers didn't physically grab Porsche's hand and make her open the door. They probably just pushed and pushed with their words until she gave in. It is entirely plausible that Porsche could have called production's bluff and just waited it out in the HOH room until they inevitably had to give up in order to continue running the show. Think of it like an unconventional endurance comp. If Porsche could outlast production, she could have gotten away with not opening the box, but it seems like she dropped out of this hypothetical endurance comp after only just an hour. Now, it's totally possible that there is more to the story than this, but this is just how I interpret things. So, while I don't think the theory that Porsche was forced to open Pandora's box is necessarily true, I definitely believe that production kept her in the HOH room and pushed for her to open it until she eventually did.
Thank you. I win HOH! So now I get to make the decisions in the house. Yeah, me, the hostess with the mostess.
Can we go ahead and get evicted? Get this over with.
Jordan and I realized that there's no way that Jordan and I can even be in this game now together.
A few moments later.
Pandora's very tricky. It could mean something good or bad. I mean, hopefully good for me. Could it be something bad?
2 hours later.
All right, I'm going in. House guest, I have opened Pandora's box. In doing so, I have unleashed the duo twist back on the house for 1 week. Opening Pandora's box was the worst game move I've made so far. Now if I put up Rachel and Jordan and just one of them wins the veto, they're both safe. That's 1 newbie out, 2 veterans in. Oh no. Congratulations, Rachel. You won the Power of Veto.
Thank you. Since I have the power of veto, it gives me the power to remove us both from the chopping block. Game on, guys.
Up next, we have a pretty fun one, and that's the theory that in Big Brother 8, production didn't put Eric's name in the veto drawing bag due to him effectively not being allowed to use the veto. This is a really interesting one, and there is surprising merit to it. For some background information, Eric was America's player in Big Brother 8, which meant that he basically acted as a puppet for the fans throughout the season. Every determinate game action that Eric made was decided by America, whether it be who he should align with, who he should target, and who he should vote out. So, following along with this standard, if Eric were to win the veto, then America would be the ones to decide if he would use it to save someone or not, right? Well, there's actually a bit of a dilemma here. The way that the week of Big Brother works is that typically an HOH is crowned on Thursday, nominations are made on Friday, the veto is played on Saturday, and the veto meeting is held on Monday. But the casual viewers, which made up the large majority of America's player voters, wouldn't know that Eric won the veto until the Tuesday episode aired. So it would be impossible for them to vote on whether or not Eric should use the veto without spoiling the episode ahead of time, as the veto meeting would have already taken place. The solution that the producers came up with was that if Eric won the veto, he just wouldn't be allowed to use it. And we even saw this take place when Eric won the veto at the final 7. He wanted to use the veto, but because there wasn't enough time to have the viewers vote on a decision, Eric was forced to leave the nominees the same. Now, I can see how the showrunners wouldn't want to be put in that position too often. So one way to try and limit the chances of this happening would be to try and have Eric play in as few veto competitions as possible. So the conspiracy theory is that the producers never put Eric's name in the veto drawing bag so that he would rarely be picked to play in the veto. I know it sounds silly, but based on the statistics, it's entirely possible that this is true. Throughout 8 veto draws, Eric's name was not drawn a single time. The odds of this happening is very low, and while it's not impossible, it's a little suspicious that Eric, of all players, was the one who never saw their name be drawn. Now, one thing going against this theory is that it would have been incredibly easy for the players to discover if Eric's name was not in the bag. All it would take would be one player dropping the bag and having all the names exposed, which would reveal that Eric's name was missing and raise a ton of questions that the Big Brother team would not want to answer. We even saw Frankie go through the veto bag in Big Brother 16 to ensure that his name was actually in there, so something similar easily could have happened here as well. So even though I find the whole situation quite suspicious, I feel that it would have been way too easy for the house guests to accidentally uncover the truth, so I'm gonna say that this conspiracy theory isn't all that likely.
So I haven't played in any of the Power of Vetoes yet, but now that I know about the mystery trip outside of Big Brother house, I want to play badly. This is finally gonna be my week. Here it comes. It's me.
House guest choice.
Jessica.
Yeah! Zach. And
Yes!
House guest choice. Guess what? Lucky you, dude.
Yay!
You're in. Congratulations, Eric. You have won the Power of Veto.
That's it.
Welcome to the veto competitions, baby!
Oh my god, since Eric won the Power of Veto this time, that means there's a strong potential chance of backdooring Dick or Danielle in this game.
If he really cared and wanted to do exactly what I thought, he would use the power of veto.
If Eric was the smart player, he would put Danielle up. This is a golden opportunity.
They say to expect the unexpected, and that is why I am choosing to not use the power of veto this week.
America, I know you guys wanted Amber nominated for the second straight week, so I did not use the veto. Let's keep her up there, and now you have the choice to send her home if you'd like.
For the third conspiracy theory, we have one that I have only heard one or two people talk about. However, I think there's something solid here, and that's the theory that in week 1 of Big Brother 12, Hayden was tipped off to nominate Annie because production kept pushing him to not nominate her. To set the scene, it was week 1 of Big Brother 12. Hayden had won the HOH and was targeting the newly formed showmance of Brendon and Rachel, so he nominates them both for eviction. Brendon wins the veto to save himself, so Hayden naturally needs to pick a replacement nominee. One of the names that Hayden was tossing around was Annie, and this is where things get interesting. This was unknown to the other house guests, but Annie was actually the secret main twist of Big Brother 12. Annie was chosen to be the saboteur before the season began, and her role was to cause chaos and disrupt the flow of the house throughout the season. Obviously, the production team wouldn't want Annie to be the first house guest evicted because they assuredly had weeks and weeks of sabotage planned for her to enact. So, the theory is that the producers would try to dissuade Hayden from nominating Annie whenever he brought it up in the diary room. However, these subtle hints that Hayden was receiving actually had the opposite effect. Because production was pushing for him to not nominate Annie, it tipped him off that something was up and that he probably should nominate her because of it. So, Hayden then goes ahead and nominates Annie as Brendon's replacement, and by the end of the week, Annie, the saboteur, became the first evicted house guest of Big Brother 12. Now, how much of this do I believe? Well, I don't think this is a super far-fetched theory. Production obviously would want to keep Annie in the game, but they can't flat out say anything to the house guest to try and keep her safe. So, the next best thing to do would be to subtly influence the HOH into maybe going in a different direction. However, I could definitely see the house guests picking up on this, and I don't think it takes a genius to add up that something might be fishy with a certain player if the producers are trying to get you to keep her. So overall, I think that this theory has some merit, although I definitely don't think that it's like 100% confirmed.
I'm pretty pissed off right now. Brendon's got power in the house now. He's gonna pull himself off the block, no doubt about it. That leaves me wondering who I'm gonna put up to replace him. Everybody's pulling me in different directions, including people within the brigade. Enzo wants Annie. Lane thinks it might be a good idea to keep Annie around and put up Kathy. And I really don't know what I'm gonna do yet. Our replacement nominee is Annie. I'm sorry, Annie. I really am.
Oh no, I knew it was gonna happen. Lies weave evil webs.
Ugh, I'm so pissed. I'm pissed. I never thought week 1 people would be dumb enough to put somebody like me on the block.
By a vote of 10-0, Annie, you are evicted from the Big Brother house.
Hello, house guests. Hope you enjoyed my latest sabotage, but unfortunately, it's going to
be my last. That's right, guys, it's me.
Oh my God, Annie's a saboteur. I feel like a freaking king right now. You know, I'm the one that put her up. She's a saboteur and she's out of here. I love it.
Coming up next, we have a bit of a modern theory, and that's that the Wactivity comp powers in Big Brother 21 were actually just the unused power apps from Big Brother 20. If there's a theory that has the most validity to it, it's probably this one. In Big Brother 20, there were 5 power apps in the BB App Store that the most trending house guests could choose from. However, this was only offered 3 times, meaning that there would be 2 unchosen powers left over when all was said and done. These 2 powers ended up being the redraw power and the upgrade power. And what do you know, when Big Brother 21 rolls around and there are 3 new powers, 2 of them fit weirdly well with the leftover power apps. One power, the Chaos power, gave the holder the ability to have the veto chips redrawn if they weren't satisfied with the players chosen to play in the veto competition. That sounds exactly like what the description would be for the redraw power app. Then another power, the Panic power, gave the holder the ability to upgrade any week's golden power of veto into the diamond power of veto. which, yet again, sounds exactly like what the description could be for the Upgrade Power app. While I was browsing the Big Brother 21 wiki page, it even said that these two powers were the unchosen powers from the BB App Store, although there was no citation there, so that might not actually be 100% confirmed, but for me, this one is pretty much as close to a guarantee as you can get. So, I'll call it a true conspiracy theory.
Please browse the available power apps and make your selection.
Redraw, upgrade.
Congratulations on winning the Chaos Activity Comp. You have now earned the Chaos Power. This power allows you to force a new veto picking player's draw.
You have now earned the Panic Power. This power will send everyone at the veto meeting into a panic because you now have the ability to turn the golden power of veto into the diamond power of veto.
And now, to end things off, we have the holy grail of Big Brother conspiracy theories, and quite possibly the greatest conspiracy theory of all humankind. Was Helen pushed in the Battle Bat competition in Big Brother 15? During the competition, the players had to stand on a small platform and catch softballs thrown at them without falling off. Helen was one of the participants trying to get back into the game. However, about 50 minutes into the competition, Helen fell off her pedestal and was eliminated. But there exists a conspiracy theory that Helen was actually pushed off of her pedestal by a member of production that was behind the competition structure, or at the very least, she was tapped on the foot as a signal for her to fall off. On the live feeds during the comp, you can see a member of production walking behind Helen just moments before she fell off. And to be fair, it did seem that Helen fell for seemingly no reason, which is probably what helped spark this theory in the first place. A possible explanation as to why production would want Helen to fall is that because of all the bad press Big Brother was receiving at the time, due to the racism and prejudices circulating inside the house, the production team didn't want Helen to re-enter the house, so they paid her off in order to avoid further controversies. So, with a reason that at least makes a tiny bit of sense, as well as the conspicuous footage of a production member walking behind Helen right before she mysteriously fell off, is it true that Helen was indeed pushed? Well, I hate to burst the fun bubble, but I highly doubt that this was true. For starters, I definitely don't think that she was pushed, and if this theory were to even be remotely true, I'd lean towards her being tapped on the foot as a signal to jump off as opposed to being pushed off. But even then, I think it's just a coincidence that someone walked behind her before she fell. I just don't see it adding up in a way that can convince me of this being true, so my honest answer is that Helen was, in fact, not pushed. But I'll be damned if I ever stop saying that she was. Justice for Helen.
It is the hardest competition yet, but my Big Brother life is on the line, so I'm staying on this plank for as long as it takes.
To start things off, let's talk about one that I just mentioned. The first conspiracy theory of the day is the theory that the producers actually forbade Brendon from nominating Britney during his HOH reign in Big Brother 12 due to the fact that he definitively told her that he was going to nominate her. In the Big Brother rulebook, it is technically a rule that the HOH cannot definitively tell anyone who their nominations are going to be. You can use implicit verbiage, such as, I'm thinking about nominating you, or I'm considering nominating you, but you're technically not allowed to flat out say, I'm nominating you. This rule is, to put it simply, very loosely enforced. There are dozens of instances of HOHs saying that they're going to nominate someone without any of those buffer words, yet they face no repercussions. However, it seems like it was enforced one sole time, and that was during Brendon's HOH in Big Brother 12. Brendon and Britney were sworn enemies inside the house, so once Brendon won the HOH, it seemed like a sure thing that Britney would be his target for the week. So given that information, it was certainly a surprise to see that Britney not only managed to avoid being an initial nominee, but once the veto was used, she also managed to avoid being the replacement nominee. As a viewer, it was very head-scratching, but it all starts to make a little bit of sense once you learn the theory that Brendon was actually forbidden from nominating Britney. Brendon supposedly told Britney in the beginning of the week that he was going to put her on the block. But since Britney was a fan favorite, production took the opportunity to finally enforce the rule that you cannot explicitly tell a house guest that you're going to nominate them, therefore making Britney immune from being nominated and forcing Brendon to look elsewhere for a target. As far as I can tell, this theory is almost confirmed to be true, so it gets the Ethanamel seal of approval as a true conspiracy theory.
Alright, I guess I'll be picking 3 have-nots for the week. Reagan, Brittany, and Matt.
I cannot eat. I cannot take showers. I'm gonna be on the block. I have to deal with the freaking Neanderthal, and it's gonna be really freaking tough.
Who wants to see my HOH room? Alright.
Not really anybody. I'd rather fall down the spiral staircase and break my neck than make it all the way up to the HOH room and have to look at his stuff.
So, I mean, the bottom line is, I think I'm gonna end up putting up Lane and Brittany. I'm gonna bring Brittany up and see what she has to say. Tell me, why should I not put you up?
I will do whatever I have to do.
Yeah? If I don't nominate you, am I safe?
What you do will do for me, I will do for you.
And I can trust you on that.
You can trust me on that. I am about 100% sure that I'm going up on the block.
Brittany, you're safe.
Thank you, Brittany. I'm shocked. I honestly can't believe it.
The replacement nominee is Matt.
Up next, we have one of the most talked about theories ever, and that's in large part thanks to Zach Rance. The conspiracy theory in question is that the producers changed one of the Battle of the Block competitions in Big Brother 16 in order to give Frankie an edge to win. In week 7, Frankie had been exposed as a gigantic liar to the whole house, and he therefore became the #1 target. Wanting a plan to ensure that Frankie remained on the block, Caleb volunteered himself to be nominated next to Frankie so that he could throw the Battle of the Block to ensure that Frankie would remain on the block and be evicted. The theory goes that once production heard that Caleb planned on sitting out, they saw an opportunity to make a big moment. They tore down their originally planned Battle of the Block competition, then built a new one that just so happened to be easier to win if your partner was sitting out, which of course led to Frankie winning the Battle of the Block all on his own. The theory also states that once Caleb realized what type of competition it was, he wanted to play in it to actually throw it, but production forbade him from playing because he already said that he was going to sit out, which adds to the fishiness of it all. A lot of this theory comes from Zach Rance on an Instagram live session, but there's some pretty solid evidence to support this claim. For starters, the players in the house claim that it sounded like the construction team set up an original competition, then tore it all down to set up a brand new second competition. Also, it's the only Battle of the Block to take place at night, and since it would obviously take a lot of time to tear down and set up an entirely new comp, it all begins to add up and make sense. Everything surrounding this competition is pretty fishy. However, the only thing that gives me any sort of pushback is that the 2 players on the other team, as well as the HOH that would be dethroned, Zach, Donnie, and Nicole, were the actual 3 fan favorites of the season. So rigging a competition that jeopardizes the safety of these favorites just to save Frankie sounds a bit odd, but there's so much evidence to it that I do personally believe that this Battle of the Block competition was changed in order to give Frankie an edge to win.
I tell you what, if you would feel safe, I will throw the competition.
He has no idea that Beast Mode Cowboy is in this comp to throw it, to lose it, and to ensure that his butt stays on the block.
You excited?
When I looked at him in the eyes and he wouldn't meet my gaze, I knew he was going to throw this competition. I'm not throwing this.
Throw me under the bus, you throw Derek under the bus, you throw him under the bus, you throw Cody under the bus. You done it.
The truth?
I'm not playing this game with you. So play change by yourself.
Yeah, we got to get up there, Donnie.
Congratulations, Caleb and Frankie. You have won the Battle of the Block.
Oh, we got it? I took my fate into my own hands and won a 2-person competition by myself. Yes!
Literally, they set up an entire competition in the backyard. They took down the entire competition to build a completely different one. And then it was easier by yourself, and Frankie won. Yada, yada, yada.
Now, we have a theory that I know many people believe in, but it has never been proven to be true, and that's the theory that the Big Brother 11 first HOH was designed in a way to ensure that Jessie was the sole returning player. The way that Big Brother 11 worked is that the incoming house guests were split into 4 teams based on high school cliques: the athletes, the brains, the offbeats, and the populars. And each team had a quote-unquote champion outside the house that was represented by a former Big Brother player, and whichever team won the first HOH comp would have their respective former player enter the game as their own house guest. The competition that was chosen for the first HOH was an endurance-styled comp, and to be fair, having an endurance competition is probably the most fair type of challenge to equalize the strengths of all 4 cliques. But this competition was a very strength-based endurance challenge, which would naturally favor the athletes. Now, do I think it was a guarantee that the athletes were going to win and Jessie was going to return? Definitely not. I think that it's possible that another clique could have won, but it would be a lie to say that it didn't look favored for the athletes to win. There's also a rumor that the showrunners felt bad for how they screwed over Jessie in Big Brother 10, and therefore they influenced the odds towards Jessie's favor for being the sole returning player in Big Brother 11. But I don't know. If they really just wanted to bring Jessie back, they could have just done it like they did with Paul in Big Brother 19. So as far as this theory goes, I don't know if I would go as far as to say that the first HOH was rigged in order to ensure that Jessie was the sole returning player, but I would argue that it looked at the very least favored for Jessie to return.
Coming up, the mysterious 4 will be revealed. Which one of them will earn the final spot in the Big Brother house?
I'm bigger and better than last year by 20 lbs and almost a whole inch on my guns.
If your clique wins the first head of household competition of the summer, not only will you be moving back into the Big Brother house, but you will become the first HOH.
This is fun.
It is now Brendon versus the 2 athletes.
Yes! There we go.
So Jessie, are you ready for your shot at redemption?
Yes!
Well, good luck. You may re-enter the Big Brother house.
Up next, we have a theory that I myself believed to be fact for a really long time, but now I'm not so sure. And that's the theory that Big Brother 12 was supposed to have a pre-jury battle back, but the producers decided against it after Hayden revealed too much information about the brigade to Kristen in his goodbye message to her. As the rumor goes, there was supposedly going to be some sort of battle back between Annie, Monet, Andrew, and Kristen, and even though I've seen a lot of people, including myself, take this as fact, I now have the hardest time believing that it's true. Let's take a step back and look at this in the eyes of a showrunner. You've been planning this secret twist for months that would for sure shock the house guests and viewers. Kristen was just evicted, you've got your 4 players ready to play, but then, oh no, Hayden just told Kristen about the brigade in his message to her. Looks like we gotta scrap the whole thing. No. That is like the craziest outcome to fall to. Wouldn't it have been easy to, cut Hayden's goodbye message to not include the part about the brigade? Or even have him film a different goodbye message instead of, canceling an entire battle back? I feel like this reason to cancel a pre-jury battle back has so many holes in it that I can't believe it. So, even though this rumor has been floating around for ages, and even though I've seen some pretty credible sources claim it to be true, I cannot find it in my heart to believe this. So I'm personally classifying this one as just a theory and nothing more.
By a vote of 6-1, Kristen, you are evicted from the Big Brother house. Well, I'll tell you what, why don't we listen to your goodbye tape, because I think it might help clear things up.
Okay.
I want you to know and hear it from me, Matt, Enzo, Lane, and myself are in an alliance called the Brigade. But if I would have had to choose between you and the Brigade, I would have chosen you. I'm gonna miss you a lot. Goodbye.
And now, for the final conspiracy theory, we've got a big one. This is the theory that Dick was able to cheat during the final HOH of Big Brother 8. I've talked about this challenge once before, and even though I've analyzed it way more than I should have, I still don't know. It was part 3 of the final HOH in Big Brother 8, and it was a showdown between Dick and Zach. The winner likely wins the season, so the stakes were super high. Dick took a 1-0 lead after the first question, but from here, things get a little suspicious. For the remaining 5 questions, not only did Dick always answer the same thing as Zach, but he always put up his answer after Zach did. There were a lot of mirrors in the Big Brother 8 house, and the theory goes that after taking a 1-0 lead on Zach, Dick used one of the mirrors in the living room to secretly cheat. He would always wait for Zach to answer first, and then using the mirrors, he'd be able to see what Zach answered, and then he would put down the same thing. If Dick was always answering the exact same as Zach, then no matter if he was right or wrong, it would be impossible for Zach to overtake Dick's lead, and Dick would therefore be guaranteed to win the final HOH. Throughout the competition, there were many times where Dick would hold one answer, Zach would lock in a different answer, and then Dick would seemingly change his mind and coincidentally switch to whatever choice Zach chose. This is all just speculation, of course, but when you look at it all cut together, it does look pretty suspicious, and since we know Dick was not above cheating in the past, I definitely wouldn't put it past him to cheat here if he saw the opportunity, so I personally believe this one to be true.
In just a few moments, the final round of the HOH competition will play out live. Dick and Zach will compete to become the final head of household. Correct answer is A, giving Dick 1 point. Answers, please. I need an answer, Dick. Answers, please. Answers, please. Let's hear what Dustin said. Answers, please. Answers, please. I need an answer. Let's hear what Jessica said. Congratulations, Dick. You are the final head of household.
To start things off, we're going to be talking about a week that every Big Brother fan should be familiar with. The week of Dan's funeral. The theory in question, though, is not actually about that, but instead about another event that took place that week. This theory states that at the final 8 of Big Brother 14, once Frank won the HOH and made it clear that his #1 target was Dan, the production team put Pandora's box in the game specifically to try and save Dan. Pandora's box released a second veto into the house for the week that Frank was not allowed to compete in, and the theory states that this veto was only put in the house to give Dan an additional shot at safety. However, it proved to be unsuccessful as Ian ended up winning it instead. Now, it definitely does look a little bit suspicious. As soon as Dan is in legitimate danger, not only is a second veto added for the week, but Frank, the comp beast of the season, isn't allowed to play in it, which massively improves Dan's odds of winning it. I don't know where I saw it, but I think I even remember Dan himself saying that he thought that this second veto was added specifically for him, although since I don't remember where I saw that, I can't confirm that that's true. Now, although I do actually think that this theory has some validity to it, I don't think that there's nearly enough evidence to confirm that there was any intentional production interference involved. Maybe Big Brother was trying to throw Dan a bone by adding in a second veto for the week, but maybe it was just the plan all along. This second veto competition was not structured in a way that would give Dan any real advantage in winning it, unlike when Rachel won the veto during Porsche's Pandora's box in Big Brother 13. So if the producers were really trying to save Dan here, I feel like they would have gone the extra step to give Dan a competition that he'd excel in, as opposed to an arcade claw machine. Speaking of which, the arcade claw machine was always in the house, so this second veto comp was likely always planned to happen. In the end, while the puzzle pieces definitely are there and can be put together, I personally feel that the second veto was always planned for that week, and it was just a coincidence that Dan happened to be the target there.
Frank wins the HOH. I'm in trouble. There's no doubt in my mind who he's gonna put up, but I'm gonna do whatever it takes to stay in this house, and I'm gonna slither my way out this week one way or another.
I'm HOH this week. I go upstairs, and guess what I see? It's Pandora's box. I just hope it has nothing to do with some sort of twist that's gonna hurt me this week.
Pandora's box has been opened. As a result, a second veto could be unleashed into the house.
I know I'm in trouble this week, so the fact there's a second veto possibly floating around it and I can win it is huge. This could be the lifeline I need to get me to the next step in the game. Ian wins a veto. I'm disappointed in myself. I could have avoided Frank's wrath, but I missed my chance.
Up next is probably one of my favorite conspiracy theories that I've covered so far, and that's the theory that in Big Brother 5, both Drew and Diane were considered to be a part of the twin twist with their identical twins, but they were eventually not chosen in favor of Natalie and Adria. For those that are unaware, one subset of the Project DNA twist in Big Brother 5 was the twin twist, where sisters Natalie and Adria would secretly switch places inside the house, pretending to just be one person without being caught. However, these twins weren't the only players in the house familiar with being identical, and what seemed too good to be just a coincidence, both Drew and Diane were also identical twins, but their other halves were sitting at home and were not involved in the show whatsoever. But there exists a theory that states that both Drew and Diane were considered for the twin twist, yet they ultimately weren't selected. It has been stated that both Drew and Diane had their twins participate in the casting process as well, with Diane even saying that the casting producers made her twin try on many different outfits, which, if I had to guess, likely had to do with them wanting to see if Diane and her twin could really pass off as the same person. The most likely outcome here is that Drew and Diane just didn't look as identical to their twins as Natalie and Adria did, which is why they ultimately weren't chosen for the twist. But it is still interesting that they eventually made it onto the cast without their twin. So as far as the theory goes, I would say that it is definitely likely that Drew and Diane were at the very least considered to be the twins featured in the twin twist, but likely were scrapped in favor of Natalie and Adria, who looked much more identical in comparison.
I'm Drew. And I'm going from twin brother to big brother.
That's my sister.
Oh, how sweet. I'm just loving this twin thing, I tell you. Drew, twin, last week got HOH, and then Diane, twin, gets HOH this week, and I'm loving it.
All right, so we got 2 sets of twins. I have a twin sister, Lindsay.
My brother's name's Ben, and this is like the first time we've been apart for more than 4 days.
Me and my sister, we have been switching in and out sporadically.
Looking ahead to this next theory, we have one that is extremely recent and was a very hot topic when it happened. The theory in question is that in the week 2 HOH of Big Brother 24, Jasmine's foot did actually touch the ground, but due to all the commotion of her twisting her ankle, the producers decided to just let her move on, leading to her eventual HOH win. This is one that I really wanted to believe when it happened, but as time has gone on, I don't really think it's true. It was during the second HOH of Big Brother 24, and the first part had the players face off head-to-head in an obstacle course. If you touch the floor at any point during this obstacle course, you'd have to reset. During Jasmine's turn, while she was on the rock wall, she slips and it looks like her foot may have touched the floor, as you can even see confetti move from the spot where her foot was. Jasmine continued on as if nothing had happened and she finished first in her heat, but after she dismounted, she landed on her ankle wrong and seemed pretty hurt. During this time, Julie seemed unsure of the results because it did look like she may have touched the floor, but due to Jasmine's injury, all of the attention was focused on that. Eventually, they said that they checked the tapes and that Jasmine didn't touch the floor, which meant that she could move on to the next round where she did actually win the HOH. However, there is a theory that her foot did touch the ground, but due to her injury, the production team decided that it would just be easier to say that she didn't touch so they wouldn't have to redo her round. When looking at the footage, it looks really, really close. You can see the confetti move on the floor from where her foot dropped to, but it's possible that the wind from her falling was enough to shuffle the confetti around, so I'm not sure if the confetti argument has enough weight to it. At the time that this aired, I truly believed in my heart that she touched, because it genuinely looked like she did, but now that I've sat on it for almost a year and have taken the bias out of the equation, the most likely answer is that the production team wasn't lying, and that Jasmine did in fact not touch the floor, but it still goes down as one of the more controversial comp results in recent memory.
All right, congratulations, Jasmine. Actually, hang on. Yeah, thank you, gentlemen, for helping Jasmine. We will be right back. All right, Jasmine, we have confirmation that you won. We checked tape, so stay there and celebrate that win. All right, you earned it, lady.
Now up next is one that I used to see talked about a lot, and for the sake of wanting to talk about it myself, I've included it here, and that's the theory that Big Brother 21 introduced a more physically focused endgame to help Jackson and Mickey get to the end. For those that don't know, the endgame competitions of older Big Brother seasons typically were a solid mix of mental puzzles, quizzes, and the occasional physical comp. However, Big Brother 21's endgame consisted of almost entirely physical competitions, which clearly favored Jackson over the rest of the competitors. Now, I'm just going to say that I absolutely do not think this is true in the slightest. For starters, the trend of a more physical endgame started with Big Brother 20, so to say that it was introduced for Jackson in Big Brother 21 would be slightly inaccurate. Secondly, I really don't think the producers were pushing for a Jackson win at this point. Nicole Anthony was clearly the fan favorite, and you can even tell that Julie was a huge Nicole fan by her reaction when she won the double eviction HOH. Also, with the way that they kinda threw Jackson under the bus at the finale, I highly doubt that they were going out of their way to try and influence a Jackson win. So, as far as conspiracy theories go, I'm gonna have to rate this one pretty low. If anything, I think a more physical endgame is the direction that Big Brother has wanted to strive for, as we've seen that happen in every season since Big Brother 21 as well. So overall, I definitely do not think that Big Brother 21 made the endgame competitions more physical in order to help Jackson make it to the end.
I have got to bring home a win in this veto.
No, damn it! No! Damn it! Are you kidding me? Damn it! Oh, damn it! In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen.
Nico!
Oh my God!
And that means the winner is Mickey!
I thought I lost.
It's okay.
And now, for the last one, we have, in my opinion, a really funny one. This theory states that in week 4 of Big Brother 15, after America accidentally nominated fan favorite Elissa for eviction, the producers rigged the veto competition for the week to ensure that Elissa won it. For a really quick summary of the background info, the main twist of Big Brother 15 was the MVP twist, which allowed for America to vote for one player to have the power to nominate a third nominee. Elissa was voted the MVP by the fans for the first 3 weeks of the game, but the producers switched it up in week 4 and made America the MVP. So now, whoever the audience voted for would just be the third nominee instead of being the person who named the third nominee. However, a lot of the viewers didn't get the memo and still voted for Elissa anyways, which led to Elissa receiving enough votes to actually become the third nominee. The theory goes that the production team realized that a lot of the viewers messed up with their votes and that they didn't actually want Elissa gone. So to make up for the viewers' mistake, they influenced the veto competition for the week in order to give Elissa an edge. The veto comp in question involved the players searching through a mud pit for ballots worth differing amounts of points, and you had 8 minutes to try and find 4 ballots that would add up to the highest point total. Elissa was put all the way on the left side, and throughout the competition, Elissa kept finding some pretty solid point values, including one worth 20 points. In the end, Elissa did end up winning the veto to keep herself safe and fix the viewer's mistake, but some people suspected foul play. On the live feeds, Aaron kept complaining about how Elissa's side had so many high-value ballots and that her side had such low values in comparison, which led Aaron, as well as some viewers, to believe that the production crew intentionally loaded up Elissa's side with high numbers so that she would win the veto and Aaron wouldn't. Do I believe this? Yeah, I kinda do, but at the same time, I also don't care. In this situation, I am perfectly okay with production influencing the game because I simply don't like Aaron, and Elissa winning the veto was the best outcome. Also though, this might not even be true. Aaron still found some pretty high numbers, and Elissa's numbers weren't even that crazy other than the 20 that she found, so I can also totally believe that it was just a coincidence and that Elissa won fair and square. Either way, Aaron lost, and that was pretty cool to watch.
Elissa, the MVP has chosen you as the third nominee.
Whoever earns the most votes will win the power of veto.
I have to win this. So I'm gonna fight very hard in this veto and take myself off the block. When I get the 20 votes, I also realize that I can't participate in next week's veto. I have to ensure my safety.
Aaron, you have 32 votes. Congratulations, you are now in the lead. Elissa, you have agreed to sit out the next veto competition, but congratulations, Elissa, with 40 votes, you have won the power of veto.
Whoever secretly nominated me, you're gonna have to try a lot harder to get me out of this house, because I'm not going anywhere.
Congratulations. Good job, everyone.
The first conspiracy theory that we'll go over is by far the most recommended theory that I've gotten in the last month, and that's the theory that in week 5 of Big Brother 25, Cory voted to evict Jag, but the producers spliced the footage to make it look like he voted to evict Red. If I'm being perfectly honest, I didn't even want to go over this one, but I had enough comments about it where I thought I would at least mention it. The reason that this is a conspiracy theory in the first place is because when Cory casts his vote to evict Red, it looks like his mouth is actually saying Jag. However, this is one that we can quickly disprove, as Cory's brother Zach opened up about how Cory had a speech impediment growing up and had trouble pronouncing R words, and his speech therapist also chimed in to explain how the mouth would look like that if one had gone through speech therapy and worked on their R's. But even past that, what is the motive here? What's the intent? What does CBS have to gain by making it seem like Cory voted out Red over Jag? If this was a true split vote and Cory's vote would have decided it, then maybe there would be an ounce of credence as to why Big Brother might want to change his vote, but this vote was 8-2. I get why this theory snowballed, because it certainly can look like Cory was saying Jag instead of Red, but I think this has been more than cleared up, so it's a disproven theory.
Hello, Cory.
Hi, Julie.
Please cast your vote to evict.
I vote to evict Red.
According to Zach Wartenberger, he says that Cory grew up with a speech impediment. He's bad at saying R's, okay?
Okay.
The next conspiracy theory is one that I briefly touched upon in a recent video, and I got a lot of comments asking me to dig a little deeper, so here it is. This Big Brother conspiracy theory is the theory that in week 3 of Big Brother 14, when the coaches came back into the game, the eviction was not supposed to be canceled, but the producers shoehorned it in because they wanted to keep Frank in the game. For a little background info, it was week 3, Shane had won both the HOH and the veto, and he had gone through with his plan to target Frank by putting him up at the veto meeting. Frank didn't know it yet, but the votes were there to send him home, and he was going to get evicted come Thursday night. But there was a little something going on behind the scenes this whole time. The prior week, Julie had announced to the viewers at home that there would be an audience vote. This vote was to determine whether or not the coaches would be given the opportunity to enter the game as players at the end of week 3, right around when the eviction would take place. The viewers voted yes, so come eviction night, Julie revealed to the house guests that the coaches now had the opportunity to become players, and that if one of them hit the reset button, then all 4 coaches would enter the game and the game would be reset, and there would be no eviction that night. Hold on a second. I went through and checked the episodes, and as far as I can tell, there was never any mention of the eviction being canceled in the week leading up to this. I get that the show may have wanted the shock value of not announcing it until the very last minute, but it still felt very random and super unnecessary. Frank was an audience favorite and everyone knew it, so this felt like a sneaky way to keep him in the game while also not drawing too much attention to it because the big focus was on the coaches returning. At this point, I am fully putting my conspiracy goggles on because I had a sneaking suspicion about something. So I went and checked. And what do you know, Big Brother 14 was the first season to ever feature 2 double evictions. It's almost as if they originally planned on having just 1 double as per usual, but then last minute decided to keep Frank in the game and added in a second double eviction as a way to cut down on the extra time. I am mostly just having fun with it at this point, but there definitely could be something here, so I'm gonna hesitantly believe it.
And I'll be back 1 week from tonight at 9 for the next live eviction. Plus, find out how America voted and if the coaches will enter the game. Before we begin the live vote and eviction, I have some news for you that may change the course of the game. America has decided that, yes, they want to offer you the chance to get back in the game as players. You would reset the game right here, right now, meaning there would be no eviction tonight. And everyone would battle it out tonight for the title of head of household. House guests, the results are in. The reset button has been activated. Joe and Frank, neither of you will be evicted tonight.
I have worked my tail off all week to assure my safety. Now the coaches have been dropped into the game. Frank's not going home, and I have to walk the plank.
Mike just told me that I might have been going out the door tonight, and I can't believe it.
In one of the earlier conspiracy theory videos, I talked about an Evel Dick cheating incident, so why not talk about another one? The conspiracy theory in question is the theory that at the final 5 double eviction of Big Brother 8, Evel Dick cheated in the veto by purposely sabotaging Jamaica with a blue ball. Dick had won the final 5 HOH and he had nominated Eric and Jamaica for eviction. The veto competition had loads of colored rubber balls rain down on the competitors, and the first player to put 8 green balls in their tube would win the veto. The competition starts off normal, but then things start to get a little fishy. At the beginning of the comp, you can see Dick put a blue ball into his pocket, then later he is shown holding it in his left hand, and then a few moments afterwards, the ball is no longer there, and Jamaica's tube is shown to have a blue ball in it, which disqualified her from the competition and ended her shot at winning the veto. Although we never actually see Dick put the ball in Jamaica's tube, things obviously look a little suspicious with all the pieces laid out in front of you. The incident was never addressed and was written off as a freak accident where a ball must have bounced and landed into Jamaica's tube, but have you ever tried those types of games at carnivals? That is super unlikely, especially when you look at how skinny the tubes were. The main thing going against this is that if Dick were to try and force a particular player to lose the veto, targeting Jamaica doesn't really make sense. Eric was the player Dick wanted evicted, and Zach winning the veto was the only way Dick possibly could have lost Danny that week, so it would make much more sense to try and make those two guys lose over Jamaica. So overall, as fun as this one is, I don't think it's too likely that it's true, but at the same time, I don't know. This guy thought outside the box a lot, and I wouldn't put it past him for a second.
Jamaica's still in the lead with 3 green balls. Jamaica has 5. Zach has 5, but Jamaica, you have been disqualified. You put a blue ball in your clear tube.
Up next, we have one that I cannot believe I didn't cover in the first 3 parts, and that's the conspiracy theory that the final question of the final 4 HOH comp in Big Brother 9 was rigged so that the showrunners could choose whatever outcome they determined was more entertaining. For context, the final 4 HOH was a fact or fiction comp, where the players were read a statement pertaining to the season, and they had to answer whether it was fact or fiction. Going into the final question, Sharon had a 1-point lead over Ryan, and the statement was as follows. Fact or fiction? Everyone knows Jacob and Sharon and Ryan and Jen were 2 pre-existing relationships in the house. But there is a 3rd pre-existing relationship still in the house. The obvious and, dare I say, correct answer would be fiction. So that's what Sharon answered. But Ryan, knowing that he needed a Hail Mary to have a shot at winning, answered fact. Julie then came on to read the answer, and then radio silence for like an awkward amount of time. Here, let me demonstrate. Yeah, that long. Julie finally came back and said that it was indeed fact. And then a small graphic at the bottom of the screen showed text that said, the guinea pigs. Big Brother was being sneaky and said that the guinea pig pets that were living in the house were the 3rd pre-existing relationship, which, sure, okay. This forced a tiebreaker between Ryan and Sharon, to which Ryan won, and Sharon ended up going home that week. What the heck? This was clearly a goofy question to begin with, and some fans feel like the producers purposely made the answer ambiguous so that they could choose whatever answer resulted in the most drama, like a tiebreaker. It is extremely suspicious that Julie took an 8-second pause to read the answer, but if I'm being honest, that could be attributed to Julie herself being flabbergasted by the answer. Most of the questions in this HOH competition were already pretty whack, and to be fair, we have seen Big Brother throw in trick questions before, like the teacup tiebreaker in Big Brother 8. However, this is clearly much more egregious and on a whole different level. Do I think it was rigged? Honestly, not necessarily, but do I think it was dumb? Absolutely.
Everyone knows Jacob and Sharon and Ryan and Jen were two pre-existing relationships, but there is a third still in the house. Answers, please. The correct answer. The correct answer is fact. We have a tie between Ryan and Sharon. Congratulations, Ryan. You're the new head of household. Sheila, hand over that key to the man.
Who's the relationship in the house?
She said existing in this house right now.
That's not true.
That would have to be you guys.
It
These
ain't
two, because me and
happening.
Sharon both got it wrong.
Mother-daughter.
What?
I know it's not me. I know it's Sheila.
How is it me? I don't know any of these freaking people.
I don't know anybody in this house, so it's not me.
I'm knowing it's not me. Well, you know what? I don't know if it's not me.
Look, we gotta have a little fun around here. Maybe it's not actually a conspiracy theory, but where the f is Cirie's veto chip? Through 9 weeks of Big Brother 25, Cirie has never been HOH, nor has she ever been nominated, which means that the only way that Cirie could play in a veto is through the veto draw. But guess what? Cirie's chip has literally never been drawn. And to top it off, she has also never been chosen as a house guest choice, meaning that Cirie has played in a total of 0 veto competitions 9 weeks through the season, even though her chip has been eligible to be drawn all 9 times. Keep in mind that I am not incorporating the final 9 round into this theory because, well, I'm currently on a trip home right now, so I wrote this last week. So this is only up through the final 10. For those that don't know, Cirie, and consequently her veto chip, have both just broken the record for the most consecutive rounds without playing in a veto / being chosen to play for the veto to start the season off at 9, which is absolutely ludicrous. I've seen some talks on the BB streets about how there's gotta be a conspiracy lying in here, so let's take a deeper look. I'm going to assume that there are 2 house guest choice chips in the veto bag, as the actual number has never been confirmed, but we have seen 2 of them drawn before. However, it's entirely possible that there are 3 or even more in the bag, we just don't know. So, factoring in the 2 house guest choice chips, the odds of Cirie's chip never being chosen throughout 9 weeks is actually 6%. I really thought it was going to be lower than that, but I guess not. 6% is low, for sure, but that's definitely not unfathomable or game-breaking. Since there have been so many people in the house this season, the odds have never actually been in Cirie's favor for her chip to get drawn. The double eviction in last week when Cameron was HOH were the 2 best chances that Cirie had of having her veto chip drawn, but there was only a 33% chance both times, so it's really not the craziest thing. I guess you could make the most feeble argument that maybe production hasn't been putting Cirie's chip in the bag because they have some sort of secret agenda, and by having Cirie not playing the vetoes, it inherently makes her look like less of a threat because the house guests aren't seeing her compete nearly as much as everyone else. And by not playing in the vetoes, she never has the opportunity to let an ally down if she doesn't win it. But that's like a ridiculously large stretch. I find this to be a pretty weightless theory, but while we're here, let's keep looking at the percentages. If Cirie's chip isn't chosen at the final 9, which is the week that we're currently in right now, that'll bring it down to 3.9%. If Cirie's chip isn't chosen at the final 8, that brings the overall percentage down to just 2%. And then if her chip miraculously isn't drawn at the final 7, which is the last time that there will be a veto draw, then her odds will be brought down to just 1%. On one hand, that would be pretty cool to see happen, but on the other hand, I would actually like to see Cirie compete in a veto before the endgame starts. So if I had to choose, I would much rather see her veto chip pulled than not be pulled. But we'll just have to wait and see.
Hi, Sam.
Lou. Cameron.
Matt.
America.
House guest choice.
House guest choice.
House guest choice.
Cory. House guest choice.
Jared.
Nicole.
Mama Felicia.
America.
House guest choice. The ice pick. Matt.
Jared. House guest choice.
Bowie Jane.
House guest choice.
Cameron.
House guest choice.
House guest choice.
House guest choice. America.
I didn't get picked to play in a veto competition, but hopefully whoever wins takes me to see The Exorcist Believer.
Since I already teased it, we might as well start with it. The first conspiracy theory of the day is that after choosing the house guest choice veto chip in week 3, Cameron pocketed it and used it in future veto meetings. The house guest choice veto chip is almost always going to be the most desirable chip to choose because you can pick whichever player you want to compete. So there is a plausible motive here, but before we dive too deep into the theory, we gotta do some math and see how crazy the odds actually are. For this math, I assume that there were 2 house guest choice veto chips because that's the most that we've ever seen drawn at one veto meeting, and that's also the number I used in the last episode about Cirie's veto odds. So for consistency's sake, we'll assume that there's only 2 in the box for Cameron as well. After choosing the house guest choice veto chip in week 3, this is how Cameron's future polls looked. He pulled house guest choice in week 4. He pulled house guest choice in week 5. He pulled Matt in week 6. And then he pulled house guest choice one final time in week 9. That's 3 out of 4 times, which is pretty freaking unlikely. After doing the calculations, the probability that Cameron picked house guest choice 3 out of 4 times following week 3 is roughly 2.3%. Those are actually right around the odds of Cirie's chip never being chosen, meaning that this isn't impossible. Improbable, yes, but not impossible. Plus, you would think that production would notice if they were missing a house guest choice chip, and I of course had to look at what Cameron was wearing when he drew the veto chips to make sure that he wasn't wearing long sleeves, and for the most part, his sleeves were rolled up enough to make me feel pretty confident that he couldn't slip it in there when his hand was in the box. So as fun as it is to say that Cameron stole a house guest choice veto chip and used it in future veto draws, I have to assume that Cameron just had very good luck, so I'm gonna say that this conspiracy theory isn't super likely.
Jostle these chips about. House guest choice. House guest choice. 2 in a row. 2 in a row. And house guest choice.
Wow.
House guest choice.
Up next, we have one that I actually find extremely interesting, and I'm surprised I haven't heard of it before, and that's the theory that in Big Brother 19, Christmas was only allowed to play in the final 7 sprinting HOH because they knew that Paul had organized everyone to throw the competition, and they wanted their big TV moment of the girl with the broken foot to win a foot race. For those that don't remember, Christmas had broken her foot in like the first week of Big Brother 19, and it was so serious that she actually had to be removed from the house to get surgery on it. This left Christmas in a boot, and she needed to use a scooter or crutches for pretty much the rest of the season. Because of this, Christmas was not medically cleared to compete in certain comps that were too physical, like OTEV for example. So, along those lines, you might think that Christmas, who had a broken foot, would not be medically cleared to compete in an HOH that was almost entirely dependent on a foot race. If Christmas was forced to sprint during this competition, she could have injured herself even further. And even though I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know what I'm talking about when it comes to who would be liable for that type of injury, I feel like it would make sense that she would not be allowed to compete in this comp just as she had for some past ones. But I'd be wrong, because she was allowed to compete. Behind the scenes, Paul had set up this really intricate plan to get almost everyone to throw the competition to Christmas or Josh, so it really does seem like production allowed Christmas to compete knowing that this was the plan. The competition played out, and it ended up working out, where every single person fouled out before any sprinting actually took place, meaning that Christmas won the competition by default. I can totally see why production would want their TV moment of having the girl with the broken foot win the sprinting competition, especially after learning about Paul's plan to have everyone throw it, and I can't really think of any other reason that they would allow Christmas to compete in it. So for that, I'm gonna have to back this conspiracy theory and give it my stamp of approval.
Christmas, unfortunately, a doctor has not medically cleared you to compete in this competition. You must sit out.
That's pig poop. A track and field competition? Seriously? I have a broken foot, but my little competitive spirit isn't going to quit. I'm going to give it all of my one good leg.
Over the past week, I've crafted a master plan to have everybody throw this competition to Josh or Christmas. The whole plan pretty much hinges on Kevin to be the first one to throw it.
Christmas is the new head of household!
I'm HOH.
I literally can't believe that I pulled that off. I pretty much got the one-legged girl to win a foot race. I don't even have to make a joke.
Up next, we have another competition theory, and although I can't find the specific comment, I swear someone brought it up under the 4.0 video, and that's the theory that the producers actually helped Cory win the Final 6 veto comp in Big Brother 18 for some reason. The veto comp was a MacGyver-themed escape room course that the players would go through one at a time, and whoever had the fastest time would win. The first room of the course saw a manhole on the floor that was locked in by a piece of wood, and the players had to figure out that the pipes on the wall were actually detachable and the key to getting past that first room. You can see all of the players look at the manhole and then slowly figure out that they need to look for some sort of key. Well, except for one player, Cory. Cory walks through the door and without even looking at the manhole, he goes straight for the correct pull. Maybe Cory is just extremely observant and figured it out in 1 second, but it seems very fishy that he walked in and immediately knew to grab the pole before figuring out what the puzzle even was. All the players had to wear earpieces that gave them small instructions on where to go, so it is entirely possible that Cory was fed information through this earpiece in order to give him an advantage. As to why production would want Cory to win, it's possible that they were rooting for Nicole and Cory over James and Natalie, who were on the block at this point. So by Cory winning the veto, it would ensure that he and Nicole were both safe. Cory did end up winning the veto, and the person that he beat was Natalie, which adds a little bit of credence to this theory. And although I do think that my justification as to why production might do this is probably wrong, it is just so puzzling how Cory knew exactly where to go in the first room that I have to assume that something was going on here.
Escape through the secret tunnel. So I'm in the first room and I'm looking over at the manhole cover and I see there's 2 bolts with 2 different shapes. And I know that I need to find these shapes to open it up.
I'm so confused.
Escape through the secret tunnel.
Escape through a secret tunnel. Okay.
Escape through the secret tunnel.
I get through the manhole. I feel like I got through that first room pretty quick. Honestly, I'm kind of like MacGyver. Or he's kind of like me.
Up next, we have another Big Brother 25 conspiracy theory, although this is a bit of a strange one, so please bear with me. This is the theory that Big Brother 25 intentionally had a 7-person jury, a Power of Invincibility, and the week-long zombie battle back solely because they only wanted to have to rent the jury house for 1 month. For a little bit of explanation, in modern Big Brother, the jury stage of the game usually begins around the start of week 6, meaning that the jury house would start being occupied after the week 6 eviction, which is usually around day 44. However, Big Brother 25 had what felt like a never-ending pre-jury, as the week 4 eviction ended up being canceled due to Matt using the Power of Invincibility to save Jag, then week 8 was a week-long dedicated battle back where nobody was evicted, and also the size of the jury went from 9 to 7, which added on an additional 2 weeks to the pre-jury. So when you add in all of these additional weeks, that meant that instead of needing the jury house by day 44, it was needed on day 73. That is practically an entire month later than normal, and since Big Brother 25 is a 100-day season, that means that the jury house would only be needed for around 26 days. So CBS could feasibly save some money by only renting it out for a month. Now, at first glance, I was tempted to believe this, but then I thought about it more and realized how crazy it sounds for Big Brother to go through all of this trouble just to save a few $1,000s in rent. It was likely just a series of coincidences combined with the fact that Big Brother thought it would be cool to bring back a 7-person jury that led to the jury house only needing to be around for less than a month. So I'm gonna say that this one is likely not true, but it was still fun to think about.
The BB Power of Invincibility has been activated. That means the house guest you just voted out is now invincible and cannot be evicted.
This week, there will be no head of household, no nomination ceremony, no veto competition, and no veto meeting. Cameron and Jared, next Thursday, one will win their way back into the game, while the other's game will be dead and buried forever.
Usually, this is where I would also congratulate everyone left in the game for making it to at least the jury of 9. However, we're going old school. We used to have a jury of 7, and that is exactly what we're doing this season.
And lastly, we have one that actually has some pretty big ramifications on what I thought to be true during a historical Big Brother event, but at the same time, I guess it really doesn't change that much. And that's the theory that in Big Brother 11, Chima didn't actually throw her microphone into the hot tub. Rather, she just threw it across the yard. However, it ended up bouncing into the hot tub anyways. For those that don't know, house guest Chima Simone was fed up with the producers after a twist was implemented into the game that sent her ally Jessie home on her HOH. So in retaliation, she stopped listening to the rules. This ultimately culminated with Chima throwing her microphone directly into the hot tub, which destroyed the expensive equipment and led to Chima's immediate expulsion. The episode portrayed that Chima intended to throw the mic directly into the hot tub. However, it seems like that might not actually be the case. Chima was standing pretty far away from the hot tub when she threw the microphone, so it's not super likely that her nonchalant underhand toss would land perfectly on target in the center of the hot tub. Going past that, on the Big Brother 22 live feeds, Kevin even briefly mentioned that the microphone actually bounced into the hot tub as opposed to landing right in it. Also, without getting too technical and into the physics of it all, the angle in which Chima throws the microphone does not match up with the angle that the microphone enters the hot tub. Chima throws it with a pretty strong vertical arc, but it enters the hot tub with a more horizontal arc, which doesn't add up if it was one continuous motion. Also, the clip itself is cut up and we never actually see the microphone go from Chima's hand into the hot tub as one continuous shot. What does this mean at the end of the day? Well, it might mean that Chima wasn't intentionally trying to destroy the equipment, which is something, but she was still blatantly disregarding the rules and pushing the line for what was going to be allowed by the producers. So although I do genuinely believe the theory that Chima didn't throw her mic directly into the hot tub, not much actually changes because of it.
Did you get your mic? Thanks, because she wouldn't get it. You're welcome.
Chima grabs her mic, turns around, and just chucks it. No! I was mortified.
It fell out of her hand.
Yeah, fell.
Starting things off, here's a conspiracy theory that really had me thinking about the implications of it all after I read it. And that's the theory that prior to the start of Big Brother All-Stars, Dr. Will told the producers that he would only appear on the season if Mike Boogie was there too, leading to the removal of one of the women planned to be on the season in order to make room for Boogie. Going into Big Brother 7, Dr. Will was one of production's top choices to come back, which gave him a little leverage in giving terms and conditions for his return. On the live feeds of Season 7, there's a clip of Dr. Will talking to Janelle where he went in depth about how he was able to negotiate constant restructures to his contract because the producers wanted him on the show that badly. In the same conversation, Will also mentioned that Mike Boogie practically begged him to try and get him onto the season because it was his destiny. While Will didn't directly say it in the video, it's really not hard to connect the dots and come to the conclusion that it's extremely likely that one of Will's conditions for being on the season would be that Mike Boogie had to be there too. And this has been heavily rumored over the years to the point that it is just accepted as fact. However, it doesn't seem like the producers just added Mike Boogie to the original cast, and rather, they had to go in and remove someone on the cast in order to make room for Boogie. The biggest piece of supporting evidence would be the gender discrepancy on the season. There were 8 men and only 6 women, which makes it look pretty likely that Mike Boogie took the spot of one of the women on the season. But whose spot would he have taken? Well, when looking at the 4 women not chosen for the season, I tend to believe that Elissa was the most likely all-star that was booted for Boogie, but it could also be Monica if they always planned on having 2 Season 2 reps. Either way, it's really weird that they wouldn't have taken a man off the cast in order to keep the gender balance the same, but I guess they really wanted the other 2 production men choices, Chicken George and Marcellus, so Lisa or Monica got the axe instead. In terms of theories, I would say that this is extremely likely.
And so the producers called me, and they were really aggressive and courting me over and over and over. I was like, I can't do it. I'm doing Dr. 90210. They took my contract, redid the whole thing so that I could do Dr. 90210. Then I have a national infomercial probably airing right now on my face brush. They're like, yeah, you can't do that. And I'm like, great, I'm not doing the show. Took my contract, rewrote it. I think we're not doing this for anyone else. I kept making them jump through loops. You don't understand. Boogie is a big Brother fan. Rumor started of All-Stars. And I was like, dude, it's All-Stars. And he's like, you've got to get me on. You've got to get me on. Because it was my destiny. Like, I was robbed my season. He's like, it's my destiny to be in this game.
Mike Boogie. Congratulations, All-Stars. You may go inside.
I know I've had a lot of theories about Big Brother 25, but that's because there's a lot of questionable content from the season, and this next theory might just be the most impactful one we've seen yet, if it's true. And that's the theory that the power of invincibility was only added into the game because the season needed to add an extra week after Luke was expelled. For those that don't know, house guest Luke Valentine was expelled in the first week of Big Brother 25 after casually saying the N-word. However, instead of that week's eviction being canceled, a vote-off still occurred, meaning that 2 people left the house in the first week instead of just 1. This, in theory, should have put the Big Brother season ahead of schedule by a week, and since one of the selling points of Big Brother 25 was that it was going to be the longest season to date, lasting a record-breaking 100 days, Big Brother would need to find a way to add an additional week to the season in order to get back on schedule and meet that 100-day quota. One way for Big Brother to add a week to the season is by having an evicted house guest return to the game, because it adds another week of gameplay to the mix and would offset the week that was lost from Luke leaving. So, the 2 things that we should be looking at as possible last-minute additions would be Zombie Week, which saw Cameron re-enter the game, or the Power of Invincibility, which saw Jag re-enter the game. However, we know that the Zombie Week twist couldn't have been a last-minute addition to the season, because that week was always planned to not have a Wednesday episode before the season even began. So unless Big Brother 25 was supposed to have 3 double evictions and they just scrapped one, which I find extremely unlikely, then the only plausible scenario would be that the Power of Invincibility was not originally planned for the season, but it was added to the game last minute in order to fill the time loss that Luke's expulsion created. This had a major impact on the game, since the Power of Invincibility saved Jag from eviction, the eventual winner of the game. So if you believe that this conspiracy theory is true, which I do for the record, then that means that Luke getting expelled kicked off a chain of events that resulted in Jag winning the game, which is a really weird example of the butterfly effect.
House guests. Due to violating the Big Brother Code of Conduct by using a racial slur, Luke has been removed from the house.
Welcome back to Big Brother. You've been voting to give 4 house guests the chance to win the BB Power of Invincibility. Jag, you are evicted from the Big Brother house.
The BB Power of Invincibility has been activated. Jag, you are safe tonight, and you have another shot at the $750,000.
Congratulations, Jag! You are the winner!
Alright, up next we have a theory that I was actually curious about for many, many years. And by many, many years, I mean like 2, because it happened a couple years ago. And that's the theory that Hayden WAS, the winner of Big Brother 12, was set to appear on Big Brother All-Stars 2, but was eventually removed from the cast due to his political beliefs. Back in 2020, when the All-Stars 2 rumor mill began gaining a ton of traction, a few names started popping up of players that were believed to be in sequester for the season. For the most part, this list was almost entirely accurate, featuring names like Janelle, Tyler, and Ian, just to name a few. However, one of the names that kept showing up on the lists was Hayden WAS, but when the season eventually premiered, Hayden was nowhere to be seen. For months, nobody knew why Hayden was on the cast one day and then off the next, especially since it seemed like he checked all the boxes for the perfect all-star returnee. But recently, Hayden joined the wonderful Sharon Tharp on her podcast, The Exclusive with Sharon Tharp, and he shed some light on the subject. He opened up about the fact that Big Brother did approach him and asked if he wanted to be on BB22, and he said yes. But at seemingly the last minute, Big Brother pulled the plug and took him off the roster. While Hayden was never given a reason as to why he was cut, he strongly theorizes that it's because he's politically too far conservative, and that was something that CBS was trying to avoid. So, while it's never going to be 100% confirmed as to why Hayden was removed from the All-Star cast, I'd say that his theory about it being because of his political beliefs is probably correct. So I'm putting this down as a probably real conspiracy theory.
They did ask me for All-Stars. And I actually said yes. I was going to do it. And then at the last minute, they pulled the plug on me. I think I'm politically too far conservative. That's my opinion, but I don't really know. You know, it is what it is.
Up next is a conspiracy theory that, if untrue, still has way too many coincidences going on. And that's the theory that Big Brother 21 was initially going to have a variation of Big Brother 6's partner twist or Big Brother 8's rival twist, but the idea was eventually scrapped. It is very rare for a standard season of Big Brother to accidentally cast 2 people that know each other. For the most part, each season of Big Brother features 16 people that actually are complete strangers to one another. But for Big Brother 21, there was not 1, not 2, but 5 possible connections between the incoming house guests, which is insanely improbable if it was not planned for. The first one, of course, was Tommy and Christy. Christy dated Tommy's aunt for 7 years, and the two had a very good relationship prior to coming into the house. And the show even addressed this one because it was so obvious that it couldn't be hidden. The second one is another one that was briefly mentioned on the show as well, that being Kat and Holly. Kat and Holly both used to compete in pageants, which is how they knew of each other, but they also knew going into the season that the other one was going to be on the cast, and Holly even admitted that the two of them talked about it before the season began. The third one is much less known, and that's Jackson and Ovi. The two of them both went to the same college, were both involved in Greek life, both studied political science, and graduated just a year apart. While it seems that the two didn't know each other on a personal level, they at least knew of each other. So, right off the bat, that's 3 pairs of connections. The other 2 are much less noteworthy, but still worth talking about. The fourth one was that Holly actually knew of Jackson through a mutual friend the two shared, giving the two of them another connection. And the fifth one was that Kat knew the supposed-to-be player Jenna Jackson through Dallas cheerleading circles before Jenna was eventually cut from the cast, making that 5 sets of connections going into the season. Do I think that production planned a twist where some of the house guests knew each other but decided against it? As much as the evidence makes it look like this was intentional, I genuinely don't believe that the casting team had any idea that anyone knew each other, and they just did a very lazy job of making sure that nobody knew each other. If you're gonna have this twist but then scrap it, why would you keep in all the players that knew each other? And if this was a twist that you were going to try and do, why would you pick 2 people like Jackson and Ovi who don't even personally know the other one? As cool as it would be to have this theory be true, I really don't think it is. And I think the show tried to haphazardly work it into the season once they realized they wouldn't be able to cover up their mistakes.
I see Christy Murphy walks in the door. She dated someone in my family for the last 7 years.
Hi!
I'm telling you.
Nice to meet you. I'm Christy.
Holly, I mean, you two seemed like final two, so that was all a sham?
No. Surprise, we all know each other.
Hey, you said Tennessee?
So-
Yeah. Where from? Franklin. UT?
Yeah, I
Did you go there?
I just graduated, man.
When? Literally May.
A connection with someone that went to the same school as me is a big bond.
Hey, so Tennessee boys.
Conspiring bitch.
And lastly, we have a classic conspiracy theory that has been the talk of the town for years now. And that's the theory that Big Brother 19 was in fact rigged for Paul. Now, there is a lot of possible evidence to back up this claim. For starters, on night 1, Paul entered the house as the only returning player, got immediate safety from the night 1 eviction, was allowed to hold one-on-one sessions with literally every single house guest, and then gave out safety bracelets to 8 of the new players. This instantly put Paul in the good graces of half the house, but on the other hand, they had to put the other half of the house in jeopardy, so maybe there's an argument that this wasn't that much of an advantage. So, let's move on to the next example. The fans got to vote for one of the players in the house to receive an advantage. An extremely overpowered advantage, in fact, as it was total immunity throughout the next 3 evictions. While yes, technically any of the house guests could have won the fan vote, let's be realistic. It's week 1. Of the 16 possible house guests, the fans have known 15 of them for about 3 days, while they had gotten to see the other one, Paul, for the entirety of the 42-episode season the prior year, and Paul was the main character of the first couple of episodes this season. So yeah, this seems pretty set up for Paul to sweep the fan vote, and it seemed like an oddly convenient way for the producers to ensure that their sole returning player would remain in the game for at least the first month. And then, of course, there's the fact that Raven was a massive Paul fan going into the season and had even posed together for a photo beforehand, which would give Paul an even bigger advantage in the game. None of this is to even mention the fact that fans have theorized for years that Big Brother purposely cast as many players with a follower mentality in order to make it easier for Paul to rally numbers behind them and steamroll through the game. When you look at all the evidence, it looks a little damning, although I don't necessarily buy into the Raven stuff or the casting follower mentality people. But even without those, it seems super apparent that the producers knew what they were doing by having a fan-voted 3-week immunity advantage when most of the audience didn't even know anybody other than Paul. So I definitely think that this conspiracy theory is valid.
Sorry I'm late.
I was so happy to see you walk the door. I was like, yes. I loved you in your season. Keep me around and I'll work for you.
Congratulations, Paul. America has chosen to tempt you with the pendant of protection. Accept this temptation and the pendant will protect you at the next 3 evictions.
Kicking things off, we have a very humorous theory regarding the results of a fan-voted twist. And that's the conspiracy theory that in Big Brother 23, Derek F only got so many votes in the High Rollers room because the audience confused him with the much more popular Derek X. Starting in week 6 of Big Brother 23, a new twist called the High Rollers room was introduced that had the opportunity to offer advantages and powers to the players. However, in order to have a chance at winning these prizes, the players needed currency. In this case, BB bucks. For each of the next 3 weeks, America would be voting to give out this special currency. The top 3 voted house guests would each get 100 BB bucks. The next 3 would get 75, and everyone else would get 50. Basically, more money equals better chance at good prizes. At the time, house guest Derek X was an underdog that was extremely popular with the audience, so it was no surprise to see him get the $100 in both the first and second week. But what was a bit more of a surprise was that Derek F also got $100 in both the first and second week. Among the online community, Derek F was not nearly as popular as Derek X, and while he definitely had fans, there were other players in the house that seemed way more likely to get the $100 than Derek F. So what was happening? Well, the way that the audience voted was simply by texting their favorite player's name to the phone number 97979, and that was it. There was no way to vote online, and there were also no pictures of the players in front of you when you voted. So, the theory goes that some of the casual audience were getting their Dereks mixed up, and were either voting for both Dereks, voting for the wrong Derek, or simply just sending in the name Derek, with no letter at the end to differentiate which one they were voting for. Although, I'll be honest, I don't know if those votes would count. One thing that kind of backs up this theory is that Derek X was actually evicted before the 3rd week of voting took place. And wouldn't you know it, as soon as Derek X was not an option to vote for anymore, Derek F dropped out of the top 3 and only received $75 that final week. While I do think that this is a fairly humorous theory, and I definitely wouldn't be surprised if Derek F got a bunch of extra votes that were intended for Derek X, I do believe that Derek F was probably still towards the top of the fan voting. Derek F was a very unique presence on the show, and I think that a lot of the broader everyday audience really liked him and found him funny. So it doesn't surprise me that he would get a lot of votes. So, while I think there might be a little bit of validity to the theory, I personally don't think it's that true. But it's a very funny conspiracy theory to think about.
Derek X, you've received 100 BB bucks. Derek F, you've received 100 BB bucks. Derek X, you've received 100 BB bucks.
I freaking love you guys.
Derek F, you've received 100 BB bucks.
Baby D, you are evicted from the Big Brother house.
Derek F, you've received 75 BB bucks.
Thank you, America.
Up next is a theory that is low-key the result of one of the more annoying parts of Big Brother today, which makes it all the funnier. And that's the theory that at the final 9 of Big Brother 19, Alex Au accidentally voted out the wrong person because she was too focused on shouting out her friends from home. At the final 9 of Big Brother 19, Mark and Matt were on the block, and the house was in unanimous agreement to vote out Mark. However, to try and cause some chaos and confusion, Paul, Alex, and Jason had set up a plan for Jason to cast one rogue vote onto Matt and then pin it on Kevin after the fact to set up Kevin as a target. On eviction night, everything seemed to be going to plan, and Jason did in fact cast his hinky vote onto Matt. But then, when it was Alex's turn to vote, she also voted for Matt, which was not the plan. Was this an intentional scheme that Alex secretly made to cause even more confusion? No. Alex admitted in the diary room that when she went to cast her vote, her mind went blank and she accidentally said Matt's name instead of Mark. Now, Matt and Mark are very similar names, so it's totally believable that she'd say the wrong name if she blanked out in the moment. But it begs the question, why did she blank out? Well, when Alex was going to cast her vote, she wasn't actually thinking about the vote at all, but rather, she was thinking about all the shout-outs to home she was about to make. Like, not even 0.2 seconds after she cast her vote, she instantly rattled off like 7 different shout-outs in super quick succession, making it pretty freaking obvious that all her mental energy was being put towards that and not at the freaking game she was supposed to be playing. Do I believe this to be the reason why she said the wrong name? I sure do, and I really hope it's true. Those shoutouts to home during the vote can be pretty irritating to watch, but knowing that it actually put Alex in a little bit of hot water because she was too focused on that instead of voting out the correct person makes me a little bit gleeful, because it feels like the tiniest bit of comeuppance.
Before the live eviction vote, Jason, Paul, and I got together and decided that we should throw a rogue vote towards Matt. Jason was gonna be that one rogue vote. When I went to cast my vote, my mind went blank, and I voted for Matt to go home too. I vote to evict Matt, Mama Boy, Dre, Eric, William, and Gwen, I love you. Travis 1111.
Up next, we have a theory that, if true, might have completely shifted the trajectory of at least 2, if not 3 seasons of Big Brother and 1 spinoff. The theory in question is that Nicole Franzel managed to win the Big Brother 18 jury vote after attempting to buy jury votes with James during the season. At the first Final 7 of Big Brother 18, Nicole and James had been forming some endgame plans along with their showmances Cory and Natalie. And one pledge that they decided to make was that if any one of the 4 of them were to win the game, they would give the other 3 $10,000 each. Essentially, they were trying to buy jury votes and make a pact of sorts to increase the odds that they would win the game if one of them were sitting at the end. James and Nicole told their respective partners about the deal, but not too long afterwards, they got in trouble with the producers because making a deal to split prize money is completely against the rules. So Nicole and James had to go to everyone and retract their statements, saying that they weren't allowed to buy anyone anything, but at that point, everyone knew about the pledge and the damage had already been done. Once the show is over, you can do whatever you want with the money. It's not like Big Brother is gonna monitor your bank transactions. So even though they had to say in front of the cameras that they wouldn't give anyone money, they technically still could. So, fast forward a few weeks, wouldn't you know it, Nicole ends up making it to the final 2 against Paul, someone not included in the pledge, and Nicole ends up narrowly beating Paul in a 5-4 vote. Natalie was one of the swing votes, and many people were shocked when she didn't vote for Paul and instead voted for Nicole. So, as per the theory, did the $10,000 bribe that Nicole and James made influence Natalie's decision and help Nicole win the season? No, I really don't think so. For starters, James, the one who came up with this thing in the first place, didn't even vote for Nicole, which makes me think that he actually followed through with not honoring the deal after production told them to stop. But secondly, and more importantly, Natalie gave a whole slew of reasons as to why she didn't vote for Paul at the end, and they all made sense. So, is it possible that Natalie voted for Nicole in the hopes that she would honor the $10,000 pact? Maybe, but I don't think it's super likely. The pact may have admittedly helped the 4 of them build trust with one another inside the house, and it might have even saved Cory in the eviction vote against Victor. But past that, I don't think the pledge had any impact on the jury votes themselves, and I think Nicole won the game fair and square. So I'm giving this conspiracy theory a thumbs down.
Do that my bad. Yes, I would love for me, Natalie, and you and Cory to... Dude, that would be great.
Yeah, Nicole and Cory, let's do this.
Natalie has cast for Nicole to be the winner of Big Brother. James has cast his vote for Paul.
Up next, I have a theory that was really buzzing around at the beginning of Big Brother 25, and it had a lot of the online community feeling skeptical and angry. This theory is that when it came to timed veto competitions in Big Brother 25, the producers stopped showing all 6 players' times and instead only showed the top 3 times because they didn't want to expose how bad they messed up with accommodating Matt in the Week 2 audio-based veto. Before Big Brother 25, anytime there was a veto competition that had the players competing one at a time to try and complete a task as fast as possible, Big Brother would showcase all 6 times to the players so that they would know who did the best, who did the worst, so on and so forth. However, that all changed in Big Brother 25 with no explanation. The Week 2 veto was a timed competition that required the players to solve a riddle based on auditory hints that they were given through a set of headphones. But after the competition was over, instead of getting all 6 times, we were only shown the top 3, and this trend continued on for the rest of the season. You may just write it off as, oh, why do any of the times that's not the number 1 even matter? To which I disagree, but I can see where you're coming from. And if that was all there was to the story, I wouldn't argue with you. But there is more to the story. Matt, one of the players in this audio-centric veto competition, was deaf. And Big Brother, wanting to showcase how they were taking strides to be more accessible, released an article during this week which showcased all the ways that they were accommodating Matt's deafness throughout the game, including how they were going to accommodate him in this veto comp. However, in spite of it all, it seems like they still dropped the ball. while most of the players finished the competition in mere minutes, it appeared that Matt took significantly longer than everyone else to complete it, possibly upwards of an hour. While Big Brother turned the live feeds off for a very long time following the veto comp, you could still catch bits and pieces after they were turned back on of the players discussing how unfair it was for Matt and how distraught he was after the competition. So, after releasing an article talking about how great of a job they were doing at accommodating Matt's deafness, it would be a really bad look to then showcase that Matt performed significantly worse than everybody else did in the audio-themed comp. So, one possible way to combat this and try to save face would be to not show Matt's time. And an easy way to do that is to just show the top 3 times as opposed to all 6 times. And this is where the conspiracy theory derives from. If you ask me, I think that's probably what happened. I think it is far too fishy that the first time Big Brother started showcasing only the top 3 times just so happened to be the first time that Big Brother could receive a lot of backlash by revealing one specific player's time. While I do believe that Big Brother genuinely did try to accommodate Matt in this competition and throughout the season as a whole, they probably didn't account for all the possible ways that things could go wrong, and they were caught with their pants down once the competition didn't play out as smoothly as they had hoped.
The black ska smell. Put the Glam Sock CD, the tuba toothpaste.
I've never heard of a tuba before. I'm not someone that's very familiar with kind of musical instruments.
The Scramble Burst is sending down the top 3 times.
And now, closing things out, we have a theory that I actually talked about fairly recently in my Lost House Guest video, but it is certainly something worthy of covering again. The conspiracy theory in question is that in the weeks leading up to Big Brother 21, Kat Dunn purposely leaked the name of another potential house guest for the season, Jenna Jackson, in an attempt to get her removed from the cast due to knowing her and not wanting to play with her. Obviously, you're going to need a little background information on this one, so let me begin. In the preseason of Big Brother 21, Kat was going through the casting process and had a pretty good idea that she was going to make it on the show. However, Kat also caught wind of another girl that she knew that was also making it pretty deep into the casting process, a woman named Jenna Jackson. Kat and Jenna were sort of in the same circle of friends, as they were both very involved in the Dallas cheerleading sphere and both were on Dallas Cowboys cheerleading, making the team season 8. So, they were both familiar with one another. However, they were not friends, and it seems like they did not like each other. The theory states that when Kat caught wind that Jenna was also going to be on Big Brother 21, Kat purposely leaked Jenna's name to the public as a potential house guest. If your name is leaked too early, Big Brother will cut you from the cast, because that could jeopardize the integrity of the game, and once they saw Jenna's name floating around, they did in fact take her off the season and replace her with Christy. Now, how valid is this theory? Like medium. Kat has come forward and explained the entire situation to the best of her ability, and this is what she said. While it is true that she knew that Jenna was likely on the cast, and it is true that she didn't want to play with her, she wasn't the one that leaked her name. At least not directly. Kat had messaged a friend about the situation, and the friend ended up being the one that leaked Jenna's name to the public. But even then, that's not why Jenna got cut from the cast. In a very loose summary, what ended up happening is that in the week leading up to the move-in day for Big Brother 21, the producers started wondering if they made the right decision on making Christy an alternate. So they held a final set of interviews with both Christy and Jenna and eventually made the decision that Christy would become a house guest and Jenna would instead be the alternate. No alternates ended up being needed for the season, which is why Jenna was not on the final cast. So as far as a conspiracy theory, the big picture was actually kind of accurate, but a lot of the small details were wrong and mixed up, so there you go. Kicking things off, we have to go way, way back for this theory, but it's a fun one. This way back theory is the theory that Erica Landon only made it onto Big Brother 4 because she got boosted through the casting process as she was in a relationship with Big Brother 1 runner-up Joshua Souza. In the past, I've spoken about how Erica and Josh have dated. I even talk about it in one of my earliest videos. But what I didn't realize is that they started dating before Erica was on Big Brother 4. I always assumed that they met through the Big Brother pipeline, but that is simply incorrect. It seems to me that they started dating somewhere around the time of Big Brother 2 and ended their relationship shortly before Big Brother All-Stars, which puts Erica's time on Big Brother 4 smack dab in the middle of their dating timeline. Now, outside of the fact that it would just be awfully convenient that Erica just so happened to make it on the show while coincidentally dating a past castmate, it would also make a tiny bit of sense given Erica's submission tape. I've seen some rumors online that Erica's audition video largely consisted of her dancing around her living room and eating spoonfuls of peanut butter, which, if true, is not the most captivating audition I've ever heard of. But if she had a little birdie named Josh there to help her out, her making it onto the show would start to make a bit more sense. I'm not saying that Erica was just given a spot because she was dating Josh, and rather, my guess would be that Erica was boosted through the initial part of the process. Sort of like how a recruit might skip the beginning steps of casting, and eventually, Erica was able to make the finalized cast on her own accord. But still, it seems to be one of the earliest instances of knowing someone to help you get on the cast, and I think it's pretty plausible, especially compared to some of the other theories we've gone over. Okay, wait. Hold that thought. While editing, I stumbled upon this very old chat transcript with Josh on Joker's updates talking about Erica, and he claims that although he did help Erica with her auditions, the two of them completely hid their relationship from the producers because they thought if the producers knew that she was dating Josh, it would interfere with her chances of making it on. They even went as far as to physically hide Josh whenever CBS came over in order to keep things completely secret. So, according to Josh, Erica got onto the show completely on her own merits, and I don't know, Josh seems like a pretty trustworthy guy, so maybe this all just was a crazy hoax after all.
My recent breakup was with someone I dated for 5 years. His name is Josh. He was on Big Brother 1, and it's been hard.
Big Brother 19 has had a surprising amount of conspiracy theories, and here I am with another one. This one is the conspiracy theory that when Christmas was voting from the hospital, she accidentally heard Julie reveal the vote count up to that point, giving her crucial information on who voted for who that she was not supposed to know. For some background information, Christmas had injured her foot in the beginning of the season, and she needed to have surgery in order for it to heal properly. So, in week 2, she was taken to the hospital for surgery, but the eviction was going to take place while she was still there. So, Big Brother thought it would be a fun idea to have her cast her eviction vote live from her hospital bed, which is just super goofy and so out of place with the concept of Big Brother, but I digress. Cody was the consensus target on the block next to Ramses, and most people expected him to leave in a vote of 9-1-0. Eviction night came, but things got super interesting when the voting began. Jessica went first, and she voted to evict Ramses, which was expected, as she was Cody's girlfriend. Kevin went next, and he surprisingly also voted for Ramses. But this was secretly a plan that Paul concocted to try and pin the Hinky vote on someone else and cause chaos. Then it was Christmas's turn, and from the hospital, she also cast her vote to evict Ramses. As far as I'm aware, this was not a plan that anyone knew about previously, and there's even a joking conspiracy that Christmas meant to vote for Cody, but the hospital drugs left her confused and she voted for Ramses by accident. But that's not important, and I'm getting sidetracked. The important thing is that after Christmas voted, Julie turned to the audience and announced that the vote was 3 votes to evict Ramses and 0 votes to evict Cody. Every other vote in the night went to Cody, so he was evicted in a vote of 7-3, but things got a little peculiar once Christmas eventually returned to the house. I'm not sure if this feed transcript can be trusted 100%, but if it is, then this is what happened. She went up to Paul, told them that she voted for Ramses, and then asked Paul, who were the first 2 people to vote? To which Paul replied, I don't remember. To which Christmas said, I need you to remember because I might know something. Christmas was insinuating that she had some sort of secret information, but why would she need to know who voted before her? Well, if, say, the phone line accidentally remained on after Christmas cast her vote for Ramses, then she would have heard Julie reveal that it was 3 votes to evict Ramses and 0 votes to evict Cody. So, knowing this information, and knowing that the final vote count was 7-3 to evict Cody, then Christmas could easily deduce that the 2 people who voted before her were the only other votes for Ramses, which is why she was asking Paul for that specific information. I definitely believe that this conspiracy theory is true, because there really would be no other reason for Christmas to care about who voted before her unless she heard Julie say that the vote count was 3-0 against Ramses. And with this being the first time that Big Brother has had someone cast an eviction vote from a hospital, it is totally within the realm of possibilities that they messed something up and accidentally left the phone line on for too long. So, I believe that production made a little oopsies and that Christmas tried to capitalize on the mistake in order to figure out who else voted out Ramses.
I vote to evict Ramses.
I cast to evict Ramses.
Let's now join Christmas live on the phone from her hospital room.
I vote to evict Ramses.
The vote is 0 votes to evict Alex, 3 votes to evict Ramses, and no votes to evict Cody.
Okay, for this next one, I need to get something straight. I am not an actual conspiracy theorist. I'm just not. It's fun to dissect mysterious circumstances throughout Big Brother's history, which is why I've made this series, and while I do often claim that some of these theories I cover could very well be true, I'm not here thinking that there's this whole big secret agenda. But I cannot stop thinking about this particular theory. The conspiracy theory that Angela, from this season of Big Brother 26, is actually a CBS plant who was put in the house to cause chaos. Now, the reason that this theory first started arising was that during week 1, the greatest detectives in the world, aka Big Brother Twitter users, uncovered that Angela was featured on both Dr. Phil as well as The Price is Right, and she wasn't just some random side character. Like, she was featured prominently in both. So, she knows her way around the park, and Big Brother ain't her first rodeo with reality television. But the main reason that this theory exists is because, to put it plainly, Angela is like the most crazy, chaotic houseguest I have ever seen, and for absolutely no reason. Keep in mind, we have a season with Tucker, someone who didn't use the veto to save himself once and almost did it again just for funsies, and somehow he is not the most wild houseguest of the season. Like, Angela is in a tier of her own, and it's awesome. She wins the first HOH. She causes mass chaos. She starts a fight with the largest player in the house, calls him crazy eyes, makes a big ol' scene, and then actually gets him evicted. And every week since then, she's been finding wild, insane ways to survive, and it has been incredible to watch. It's like straight out of a sitcom. It was perfect television. It was almost too perfect. So, you have this older woman who's been on 2 CBS shows before, and she comes into the game to stir up drama almost immediately after the game begins. It starts to get a little suspicious, and I don't mean any of this in a mean way. In fact, I mean it in the opposite way. Angela is causing so much chaos and being so unique and entertaining to the point that I'm literally thinking she cannot be real. Because how can someone be this good of television and not have something up their sleeve? As time has gone on and I've seen more and more of Angela come out on the live feeds, I definitely am starting to think that I am the idiot and that Angela is in fact just a regular houseguest who is super thrilled to be on the show. But for a while there, I was legitimately convinced that she was not who she said she was, and instead was just a CBS plant with her sole intention being to cause as much chaos as humanly possible. Okay, wait, something new came up. After I made this whole video and had it set and ready to publish, the Twitter user at ThanksForBanu, sorry if I butchered that name, posted a clip of Angela legitimately talking about the idea of a production plant being in the house. And when Chelsea said, "That's not possible," Angela said, very matter-of-factly, "Oh, it's possible." Honestly, what the heck, Angela? I had just come to terms with the fact that you weren't a production plant, but now I have no idea. I'll let you all make up your mind on this one.
Ever thought that there could be a decoy person in here that isn't really part of the show?
What do you
but
mean?
It's just planted here to like be a player, but they're not really in it for that. They're getting paid separately. But
That's
they're
not
just
possible.
Oh, it's possible.
It's almost like I think people at home don't realize you cared enough about us.
Angela Murray, come on down.
Angela, welcome to the show.
$5.50, Drew.
With the curlers in her hair. You are Angela? Yes! If this card is not a song, you're going to have $20,000. You got $20,000. $20,000! Oh my God! Publishers Clearinghouse, thank you, baby.
Matt,
Matt. Crazy eyes. You have freaking crazy eyes.
What?
You better believe you're going up on the block. I really just want to have fun with you guys. Except for you. Don't talk to me.
Some of my favorite conspiracy theories to talk about are people voting for the wrong person. There's just something so funny about it because it's like, hey, you had one job, and you messed it up. Sometimes, like when Alex voted for Matt instead of Mark in Big Brother 19, there's no real impact other than a funny laugh. But other times, it's a matter of $450,000, which brings us to this theory. This is the theory that in Big Brother 6, at the final 2, Howie meant to vote for Yvette to win, but messed up and voted for Maggie, giving her the win instead and costing Yvette $450,000. Now, I've been on Big Brother Reddit before, and I've read up on this particular jury vote a lot. From what I've glossed over, there have been many accounts of people saying that Howie wanted to vote for Yvette to win over Maggie. However, Rachel, who was Howie's secret partner and one of his best friends outside of the show, did not like Yvette, especially after how Yvette treated her in her goodbye message. So Rachel supposedly threatened Howie and said that she would never speak to him again if he voted for her to win, which is the supposed reason as to why Howie voted for Maggie. However, that's not even what I'm talking about for this theory. No, the theory that I stated before was meant to be taken literally. Howie literally meant to vote for Yvette, but he accidentally put in Maggie's key. The entire source for this claim is none other than Howie's fellow All-Star, Danielle Reyes. During the live feeds of All-Stars, Danielle was talking to Janelle in the kitchen about jury votes, and she alluded to the fact that one particular player voted for Maggie incorrectly and meant to give their vote to Yvette, but she refused to say who it was on the feeds. However, many years later, she went on a podcast with Rob Sesternino on RHAP, and she finally unveiled that she was referring to Howie. Although she presented it as a rumor, she addressed it pretty confidently. And who am I to doubt Danielle Reyes? In all seriousness, do I think this rumor is true? Well, I'm not sure. Danielle definitely knows a lot more about this situation than I do, and if there was a person to accidentally vote the wrong way, that person would be Howie. But with all of the stuff I talked about with Rachel, I personally would be more inclined to believe that Howie wanted to vote for Yvette, but he voted for Maggie because of Rachel. What do you think, though? This is one where I truly want to hear all of your takes. Also, this isn't the only vote that Danielle and Janelle talked about being messed up, but I'll save that one for 9.0.
You need to go up and vote live.
And someone put in the wrong key this season? Who did it? Howie did it. Howie did it. It had to have been Howie.
No, we're not going to say. See, that's crazy.
Because the last 2 seasons, the winner was determined by 1 vote. So if you just cost somebody $450,000, it's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Rumor. Okay, let me just let you guys in on a little rumor. It's been understood that one HG did vote for the wrong person on season 6.
Was that a 4-3 vote?
Yes, it was.
Oh, so we should be talking about Yvette as a Big Brother champion?
I'll stop voting for America's Last Choices, but don't hate the house guests. Hate the game. No peeking, Julie.
3-3. Howie's vote will determine the winner. Congratulations, Maggie. You are the winner of Big Brother 6.
And lastly, we have a theory that I have seen appear in the comments of previous conspiracy iterations multiple times, so I figured we could finally go over it. The theory in question is that the Big Brother 18 returnee twist was originally going to feature all the 7th place finishers across the prior 4 seasons, but because CBS wanted to avoid Big Brother 15 at all costs, they didn't put Amanda on the cast and instead put on Devon. For a little backstory, Big Brother 18 featured 4 returning players on the cast, and they were as follows. Frank, the 7th place finisher on Big Brother 14, Nicole, the 7th place finisher on Big Brother 16, James, the 7th place finisher on Big Brother 17, and Devon, the 16th place finisher also from Big Brother 17. That piece of the puzzle doesn't seem to fit snugly with the other 3. Naturally, it's easy to notice a pattern of the other 3 players, seeing as to how they all got 7th place and were all from the past 4 seasons, so if there was an intended pattern, it would only make sense if the 4th returning player was Amanda, the 7th place finisher on Big Brother 15, not Devon. However, Big Brother 15 was like the poster child of controversial Big Brother seasons due to the vast amounts of hatred and racism displayed on the season. So with the new marketing tactic that Big Brother had begun pushing after Big Brother 15 of the show being this hot summer game and trying to steer clear of all the controversy stuff, the last thing they would want to do would be to feature one of the most loud and controversial players from Big Brother 15. So, instead of Amanda, they put on a second representative from their most recent season, Big Brother 17, with Devon. Now, I completely see the merits behind this theory, and when Big Brother 18 first aired, I was thinking along these exact same lines. However, I think this is largely just a coincidence that 3 out of the 4 returning players all happen to get 7th place originally. For starters, what type of theme would that be? 7th placers? Big Brother has never taken placements into account for basically any of their returning seasons, and it would blow my mind that if they finally decided to lean into a placement theme, that they would choose 7th place as the way to go. It's just far too random, and I don't think Big Brother cares about that. If anything, I think Big Brother was leaning into the past fan favorite theme way more than anything. Frank won AFP in Big Brother 14. James won AFP in Big Brother 17. Nicole was in the top 3 for AFP voting in Big Brother 16 and was the most popular woman from that season. And Devon was one of the most popular and noteworthy early boots of any season up to that point. So her being chosen makes sense and fits within that criteria. Sure, they could have gone with Elissa, who won the AFP in Big Brother 15, and it probably would have been fine. But again, I think they just wanted to completely avoid that season. So, while it's fun to speculate that Big Brother 18 planned on having some 7th placer returnee twist, I really do think that that was just a coincidence. I do think the theory is correct in the sense that Big Brother 15 was being avoided entirely, but that's about all I agree with. But it was still fun to talk about.
Hello! Another person, shut up!
Devon from season 17. That's weird. Weren't you here like a year ago? Weren't you canned like 2 weeks in?
You'll be lucky if you make it 2 weeks this time, bud.
In the last iteration, I talked about a conspiracy theory regarding about how Howie possibly voted for Maggie to win Big Brother 6 on accident. The basis of this claim came from Danielle Reyes and Janelle, as they were seen talking about it on the Big Brother All-Stars live feeds. But this wasn't the only vote that they said was messed up. So, I finally get to talk about the other one now. This is the theory that in Big Brother 5, Diane actually meant to vote for Cowboy to win, but accidentally voted for Drew instead, leading to Drew winning in a vote of 4-3. For some background information, the final 3 of Big Brother 5 consisted of Drew, Cowboy, and Diane. Drew won the final HOH, and he had a big decision to make. He either votes out his best friend, Cowboy, or he votes out his showmance, Diane. So it was a lose-lose situation for him either way, but he ended up evicting Diane because he felt he had a better shot of beating Cowboy than her. Diane was clearly upset by this, but it seemed that she didn't let her emotions get in the way of her jury vote as she voted for Drew to win, resulting in Drew beating Cowboy in a 4-3 vote that was already way closer than it should have been. However, there's a rumor floating around that Diane wasn't actually as forgiving as her vote portrayed, and that she actually intended to vote against Drew, but she put the wrong key in when casting her final vote. On the All-Stars live feeds, Janelle directly says that Diane put the wrong key in, and that she was voting for Cowboy, which is admittedly a really weird thing for Janelle to just say if there wasn't any basis behind it, leading me to believe that she must have had some information given to her beforehand. I've also seen some claims online that Diane herself said on the All-Stars live feeds that she did mean to vote for Cowboy. However, I couldn't actually find any evidence of that happening, so I'm not sure about that one. While I do think that Janelle was likely told by someone that Diane meant to vote for Cowboy, I have such a hard time believing that she voted incorrectly. Outside of the fact that it makes a lot more sense in my head that Diane wanted to vote for Drew over Cowboy, I have the hardest time believing that she would have carelessly inserted the wrong key. When it comes to someone like Howie, I could believe that. But Diane, that would be much harder to convince me of. Plus, Diane's reaction to her key being revealed as a vote for Drew doesn't really look like the reaction someone would have if the key revealed something other than the intended name. Clearly, there is more to the story here that just hasn't been unearthed, so I can't count this theory out, but I personally have too hard of a time believing this to be the case. So, in my opinion, I deem this theory to be pretty unlikely. But you never know. Maybe a live feed transcript or a clip will be uncovered of Diane explicitly saying that she meant to vote for Cowboy. Or maybe Janelle or even Diane will come forward with some more information. But I wouldn't get my hopes up. It's been over 20 years now.
And someone put in the wrong key this season? We're not going to say, but you can't say, but Diane did it too. She did. She's voting for Cowboy.
Congratulations, guys. Drew, I care about you more than anything in the world. I told you from day one we'd keep it separate. Cowboy, but you've never lied to me, so.
The next vote, cast by Diane, goes to Drew to be the winner of Big Brother 5.
Up next, we have something from Big Brother 26 that, as soon as I saw it, I knew something fishy was going on. This theory is that the set of rules for Quinn's deepfake HOH power were not fully disclosed to Quinn on purpose, and that they decided to strip Quinn of his vote halfway through the week in order to make things spicier. Quinn had won the deepfake HOH power in week 1, and he used it in week 4 to secretly hack Angela's HOH, which basically just meant that Quinn overthrew Angela, and he himself became the HOH that week. One of Quinn's allies, Cedric, offered to be a pawn in the hopes of taking out Tucker, but this ended up failing as Tucker won the veto, and the week ended with half of the house flipping on the vote in evicting Cedric over Rubina. Pawns often go home in Big Brother, so nothing is too out of the ordinary here. However, things start getting a bit more peculiar when you start looking at some of the smaller details. Throughout the entire week, all of us viewers were not told any of the details regarding this power. We weren't sure if Angela would be allowed to compete in the next HOH. We weren't sure if Quinn would be allowed to compete in the next HOH. And we weren't sure if Quinn would be allowed to vote this week, but we assumed that he actually would be allowed to. It turns out we weren't the only people who thought this, as it seems that the players in the house also thought that Quinn was allowed to vote. In one of Cedric's exit interviews, he claimed that one of the reasons he felt comfortable volunteering for the block was because they all thought that Quinn still had the ability to vote, which, at the time, felt like it was enough to ensure that Cedric would survive the block, even if T-Core and Chemo flipped on him. It wasn't until Wednesday, the day before the eviction, that Quinn was finally told by the producers that he wasn't allowed to vote. Now, it is pretty odd that they would wait that long to tell Quinn this information. And although Quinn admitted that he always just assumed he'd retain his vote without ever asking for specific clarification by the producers, it's still a fishy situation. Normally, when it comes to powers, there's a specific set of rules attached to them that the power holder receives when they get the power. Along those same lines, if a player is talking about their power with the other house guests and they say something incorrect regarding the power, that player is usually called to the diary room where they are then informed of their mistake, and then they have to go and clarify to the other house guests that what they said about the power was incorrect. Many times throughout this week, Quinn talked about how he thought he still had his vote, but he was never called into the diary room about it to be told that he was incorrect, which is really weird. This has led many fans to believe that the rules regarding the deepfake HOH were intentionally left ambiguous, and that the showrunners waited to make a ruling until they determined which course of action would result in the spiciest outcome. Once it became clear that Quinn didn't have his vote, it allowed for the idea of a flip to build up some momentum until it finally happened and Cedric was evicted. Now, I definitely think that it's extremely weird and fishy that the rules of Quinn's power were not disclosed to him immediately, regardless of whether or not Quinn ever asked for clarification. However, I have a hard time figuring out what the motive would be here for the producers to want a flip vote to happen that would send Cedric home over Rubina. Do you think the showrunners were like, let's figure out a way to make Cedric leave and keep Rubina in the game? Someone who they literally did not give a single confessional to in the 2 weeks leading up to this round. Flipped votes are always fun, but if there was some sort of production interference or manipulation going on, I feel like they wouldn't go about it in a way that would make it more likely for Cedric to get evicted. I don't know. Cedric seems to think that something fishy was going on too, and I agree that it was weird how things went down, but I'm not sure if I'm quite ready to jump fully on board the train that the showrunners changed the rules halfway through the week in order to make it more likely that the flip happened. But this is just a weird situation in general, and I do think something was up.
Congratulations, Quinn. Your game has been upgraded, and you have won the Deepfake HOH. You will strip the head of household of all their power.
All right, everyone. It's time for the live voting to begin. As the Deepfake HOH, Quinn cannot vote, but because it was a secret power, he still must be called in. How you doing, Quinn? Ah! By a vote of 6 to 3, Cedric, you are evicted from the Big Brother house.
Oh my God. Well, this sucks. I really did care about Cedric, so being the reason he went home, that does hurt. I'm sorry. I wanted him to stick around.
Up next, we have a theory that, if true, is the sole reason that one of Big Brother's most exhilarating weeks occurred. And that's the theory that in Big Brother 10, Dan was told ahead of time by the producers that the final 7 HOH was going to be a brutally cold and wet endurance competition, allowing him to dress appropriately and giving him a huge advantage. Going into the final 8 eviction, the house guests were able to guess that the next HOH comp would be an endurance challenge, so they all dressed in athletic wear in preparation. However, once they actually got to the competition, the majority of them realized that they weren't dressed suitably for the conditions. The endurance challenge saw the 6 players sitting on discs hung on ropes, but as soon as the competition kicked off, freezing rain started pouring down on the competitors. Now, pretty much every single player out there was either wearing a sleeveless top or a light shirt, except for Dan. Dan, for whatever reason, had a full-on rain jacket equipped with a hood, and he had some nice warm gloves on. This gave him a huge advantage in the challenge, as he had protection from the freezing cold water while all the other house guests were forced to just endure it on their skin, which certainly played a factor in Dan going on to win this competition. The big question here is, how did Dan know to wear his rain jacket for this competition when everyone else didn't think to do so? It's not like Dan wore his rain jacket every time he expected there to be an endurance comp. There was an endurance challenge 3 weeks earlier, and that rain jacket was nowhere in sight. So why did he wear one now? Well, the theory is that Dan was tipped off by the producers ahead of time to wear this protective clothing in order to give him an edge in winning the HOH. Dan was a huge fan favorite during the season, so there certainly would be incentive for the showrunners to want Dan to win an HOH at this point, and giving him a little advanced warning would be one way for them to tip the scales in his favor without blatantly rigging something. For what it's worth, the viewers weren't the only ones to think that something was fishy. During the competition, Michelle pointed out to Keisha that Dan was so conveniently prepared for this competition, and that she saw that as yet another piece of evidence that Dan was America's player, aka that he had gotten advanced warning of the challenge. Then, after the comp, Ali joined in on this, saying that Dan must have known about something because why else would he bring out a rain jacket in Southern California? With all the evidence, I do actually kind of feel like Dan may have gotten told ahead of time. At the same time, though, these other house guests weren't necessarily the smartest cookies in the oven, and it's genuinely not very hard to believe that Dan would be the only person keen enough to prepare for the possibility of cold rain during the endurance comp. So, although I certainly wouldn't be surprised if the producers tipped Dan off ahead of time to wear protective gear for the HOH comp, I also wouldn't be surprised if Dan was just being overly prepared. But overall, I would give this theory yeah, it could be true.
House guests, the power is up for grabs. Be the last person hanging on their jungle vine, because the competition starts now.
I'm glad I straightened my hair for an hour and a half.
Look at Dan's face.
I know. Dan will be up there a while.
I'm feeling very good at this point because every time we're in the rain, Ollie is shaking, and he can't stop himself. So I'm just hoping we're staying in the rain as long as possible.
Up next, we kind of have 2 theories in one, but they go together, so I'm only counting it as one. This theory is the theory that Big Brother 20 was not supposed to have a jury battle back, yet production was forced to incorporate one after Caitlyn failed the bonus life puzzle, which is another small conspiracy in itself, as it's widely theorized that the bonus life puzzle was designed to be an almost guarantee win for whichever player was forced to play in it. That was kind of a lot, so we're going to go one step at a time here, starting with the puzzle. In the first week of Big Brother 20, a twist called the BB App Store was introduced that allowed the 3 most trending house guests to pick 1 power out of 5 across the first 3 weeks. One of the powers shown had like a +1 life icon. And between you and me, I think the producers knew what they were doing with that one and purposely made that one so enticing so that it would definitely be chosen, which of course happened when Sam picked the power with the first choice. This power made it so that Sam had the ability to allow one of the first 3 evicted house guests the chance to compete in a competition, and if they succeeded, they would re-enter the game. However, if Sam never used it, then the power would automatically be used on whoever was evicted in week 4. Sam never used the power, so when Caitlyn was evicted in week 4 and the bonus life power app was automatically used, Caitlyn geared up and was given 2.5 minutes to solve a 6-piece puzzle that was already solved to begin with. Now, Caitlyn, I promise I'm not coming for you. But right off the bat, this seems to be in the players' favor to an extreme degree. And I've even heard some other theories that the competition testers didn't fail this puzzle a single time, which, if true, means that Big Brother gave Caitlyn a challenge that had previously had a 100% success rate by the people who tested it out. Caitlyn, of course, then went on to fail the puzzle, go figure. The biggest indicator to me that this puzzle was 100% intended to be completed is that when Caitlyn walked out on stage to meet Julie, there wasn't even a chair ready for her. What this tells me is that the producers were not expecting Caitlyn to fail this, so much so to the point that they didn't feel the need to have a chair ready for Caitlyn to sit on for her eviction interview with Julie because there wasn't supposed to be an eviction interview to begin with. So, with that in mind, this brings us to the second part of the theory. Since, in my opinion, the producers clearly didn't think that there was going to be an evicted house guest in week 4, I'm assuming that they didn't feel the need to plan for a jury battle back either. I think after seeing the success in Big Brother 18, when Victor came back after being evicted in week 2 and then went on to win America's Favorite Player, Big Brother started to like the idea of incorporating a pre-jury battle back as opposed to a jury battle back. Then, when they incorporated it in Big Brother 19, they got the same thing, where Cody was evicted in week 2, came back, and then won AFP. Even going a season after Big Brother 20, you get to Big Brother 21, where they elected to have a pre-jury battle back with Camp Comeback as opposed to a jury one. So, I really do think that during this era of Big Brother, production saw the value of bringing back someone from the pre-jury as opposed to the post-jury. But smack dab in the middle of all of this, we have Big Brother 20's jury battle back, seemingly out of place. It starts to make a little bit of sense though when you look at it through the lens of there wasn't supposed to be a jury battle back, but rather it was a backup plan in the event that the bonus life power app failed in the pre-jury. This is something that I legitimately believe in, and it's all because of the fact that they didn't have that freaking chair ready for Caitlyn. Had there been a chair ready for her, I promise you, I would not be talking to you about this right now. But because of that one minor detail, I've started spiraling in my conspiracy theorist ways. And I'm here to tell you that I definitely believe this one to be true.
Get set. Go.
No, it's Dad. I can't lift it.
1. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Caitlyn. You have lost the bonus life. Up next, come here. Up next, I'll talk one-on-one with Caitlyn. You had a chance to stay in. You were so close, but you missed the mark.
I didn't know what to expect either. That was not what I was expecting, for sure.
Okay, in closing off this iteration, we're going a little askew, because for one of the first times ever, I'm gonna talk about Celebrity Big Brother. This theory is that in Celebrity Big Brother 2, Anthony Scaramucci was not actually a fake house guest, and he genuinely did just quit the game, but the producers didn't want that to be the narrative, so they scrambled to cover it up by pretending that this was always the plan, and then shoehorning in the whole Scaramucci's veto thing. Once again, that was kind of a lot at once, so let me give you some context. Going into Celebrity Big Brother 2, Big Brother was heavily promoting that Anthony Scaramucci was going to be on the season. He was famously known for being the director of communication at the White House under Donald Trump for a whopping 10 days before being fired after he voiced his disdain for members of the Trump administration. So Big Brother knew that he was their big name for the season, and they promoted the heck out of him leading up to the start. However, once the season began, things didn't seem to be going Anthony's way. He was nominated in the very first week, lost the veto, and then seemed like an actual option to get evicted first. But then, all of a sudden, he was just gone. Poof. Out of the house. On the 4th episode, it was revealed that Anthony was never actually a real house guest, and rather a fake one that really had no legitimate purpose of being there. And as a parting gift, he gave the house guests a second veto competition themed around him. It all felt so off, like so needlessly extra and convoluted. It also felt like a slap in the face. Like you spent all this time promoting Anthony for this season, just for him to not even be a real player and out of the house before the live feeds even turned on? That's pretty messed up. And like, what even is the twist? That he was just in there for a few days? That's not a twist. But in my head, everything starts to make a little more sense if you consider that maybe that wasn't ever the plan. I think it is very possible that Anthony Scaramucci just quit the game once things weren't going in his favor and he was sitting on the block in that first week. But after promoting Anthony so much for the season, Big Brother didn't want the narrative to be that he quit almost immediately after the game began. So they created their own narrative and pretended like it was planned the entire time. They could just slap the word twist on this whole situation like a band-aid and make it seem like they were always in control, you know? Adding to this, I think the whole Scaramucci's veto competition looked super thrown together. The whole set was just this big black box with some blown up fake newspaper, which doesn't seem like it would need that much work to create. All in all, this was just such a weird situation that I have to think that it was all a cover-up. Now, to be fair, there are a lot of things that go against my theory. For starters, with Anthony in the game, that meant that there would be 10 jurors, which isn't something that Big Brother likes to do. But with him being a fake house guest, that brings the number of jurors back down to the standard 9, which makes more sense. Secondly, I saw people sharing posts with proof that Anthony had previously been booked for some conventions taking place during the time frame of the season, which he would not have been able to commit to unless he knew that he wouldn't still be in the Big Brother house. And lastly, Anthony himself has said after the fact that it was always the plan for him to leave right away, and that he was never a real house guest. But I don't care. This whole situation has never sat right with me, and I will always believe that it was a cover-up. So, even if there is some evidence that goes against this theory, this is a conspiracy theory that I fully back, and I truly do believe that Anthony Scaramucci simply walked from the game.
My name's Anthony Scaramucci. I'm also known as the Mooch. I got fired from the White House for using a few curse words. What's outrageous? Look at this that we're doing right now.
My first nomination, Anthony.
All right.
Boom! I'm on the block. Losing this Power of Veto competition absolutely sucks. If I can't get off this chopping block, I could be heading home. Let's face it, I've been fired before, but I'm not a quitter.
Hello guys, surprise! I'm actually not a Big Brother house guest. From this moment on, I'm out of the house. I'm giving the current nominees a second chance at safety by winning Mooch's veto. Welcome to my press room. You are surrounded by headlines about me.
It's gonna last longer than my stint in the White House, God willing.
Kicking things off, we have yet another theory courtesy of Danielle Reyes. Shout out Danielle, because she has been responsible for like 20% of the theories in the last 3 iterations. This is the theory that the fan vote for Big Brother All-Stars was not real, and rather the entire cast was selected ahead of time by the producers. For those that don't know, the first All-Star season chose the cast in a rather fun and exciting way. A couple weeks before the season began, CBS released a list of 20 former players, and across the next couple of weeks, fans would get to vote on who they wanted to see play. Then, on the night of the move-in, the top 4 voted men and women were chosen to play on the season, with the voted-in players being Janelle, Erica, Diane, Nokomis, Kaser, James, Howie, and Jace. After those 8 were selected, Big Brother then chose 6 players of their own to compete as well, with those being Dr. Will, Danielle, Allison, Mike Boogie, Marcellus, and Chicken George. However, I have seen some claims online that the fan vote wasn't actually a factor, and that Big Brother had already decided ahead of time which 14 players they wanted to be on the season. Over on Reddit, I found many comments saying that Danielle Reyes supposedly confirmed this on her Secret Alliance podcast during the time frame of Big Brother 22, possibly with James Ryan confirming it as well. The only problem is, I couldn't find them saying this for the life of me. I scoured through all the podcasts, Control-F'd as many keywords as I could think of, and I still came up short. I even resorted to asking you all if any of you had any knowledge or evidence on the subject matter. And still, I found nothing. The closest thing I found was a clip of Danielle and James talking about how the list of prospective All-Stars was leaked ahead of time before the voting period began. So it's possible that the discussion was then misconstrued into people thinking that the entire All-Stars cast was decided regardless of the fan vote. But at the same time, all these Reddit comments seemed so definite that Danielle and James specifically said that production had already handpicked everyone. So I don't know. I personally don't think that this theory is necessarily true because the results of the fan vote make sense, as the players voted in were all from the most recent seasons. And in an era where the earliest seasons weren't readily available to watch at a moment's notice, it does make sense that the public would vote for the players that were the most fresh on their mind. So until I see some actual evidence or see the clip of Danielle and James talking about it, I'd say this theory isn't the most likely. But really, all it would take for me to get on board would be for me to see that piece of evidence that has evaded my grasp for the last 2 months.
CBS announced who everyone was, and then the fans had to vote.
But it was
That's
leaked.
right.
It was something happened on the website that if you draw your cursor, you saw the name.
You'd see.
Definitely think that Erica doesn't deserve to be an all-star. She didn't do much of anything on her season, and how she got an America's vote.
Okay, up next, we have a theory that I straight up said on Twitter that I would not cover. But enough people asked me to cover it, and after looking at it, it does seem that there is slightly more going on than I initially thought. So what the heck, I'll talk about it. This is the theory that in Big Brother 26, during the Jankie World Endurance HOH, the competition was somehow rigged for Leah to win, as her marshmallow didn't immediately fall when she stopped holding it up with her stick sword. For this competition, the players had to stand on a pedestal, and using a stick sword, they had to hold up what I presume to be plastic marshmallow against a circular glass base, and the player who could keep up their marshmallow the longest would win the HOH. This competition came down to Cam versus Leah after nearly 10 hours, and Leah was crowned the winner after Cam's marshmallow dropped. However, after Leah realized she won and she stopped pressing into the marshmallow with her stick, the marshmallow didn't actually fall, at least not immediately. For a few frames, you can see the stick release the marshmallow, and the marshmallow just stays in the exact same spot. This next part is me reading between the lines, but after it cuts away from the marshmallow and onto Leah's face, you can see her make a confused expression, possibly to her seeing that the marshmallow is still stuck to the glass, and then it looks like she may have even used her sword to then knock the marshmallow off and onto the ground. Then, even after the fact, it looks like Cam picks up Leah's marshmallow to inspect it, just in case there was something fishy going on, but he quickly dropped it afterwards, likely meaning that he didn't find anything suspicious with it. Now, from what I've seen, there is a decent amount of people out there that think that because the marshmallow didn't fall instantly, it means that the competition was somehow rigged for Leah to win. But there are so many flaws to that argument. For starters, the players themselves had to set up the competition, not the showrunners, making it extremely unlikely that there would be any sort of way for Big Brother to tamper with Leah's setup in a way to help keep the marshmallow up. And I highly doubt that Leah had access to any type of substance that she could secretly put on the marshmallow with nobody noticing that she did so. Also, let's look at the set design for a second. Based on the angle of Cam's stick as he held up his marshmallow, it seems pretty obvious to me that these marshmallows could not have weighed very much. Leah also looked to be pushing directly into the center of her marshmallow for the entire time. So, with Leah putting 10 hours of pressure directly into the middle of this marshmallow against the glass back base, I feel like it's not that far of a stretch to say that there was some amount of friction or suction going on between the marshmallow and the glass that would allow for it to stay up even after Leah's pressure was released from it. I know that no other marshmallows stayed up for any amount of time after they dropped, but I'd argue that nobody was holding up their marshmallow as good as Leah was. So, overall, I'm not arguing that Leah's marshmallow didn't stay up after she let go. I totally think that it did stay up, especially after looking at Leah's expression after winning. But I absolutely do not think that there was any sort of foul play involved, and rather just some good old-fashioned physics that I admittedly don't entirely understand. But it seems much more plausible than any other alternative. So, in my eyes, this theory is debunked.
Congrats, Leah! You are the new head of household!
Up next, we have a theory that is connected to one of Big Brother's craziest moves ever. This is the theory that at the final 7 of Big Brother 15, Elissa was pushed by the producers in the diary room to keep Amanda despite their deep hatred for one another. To set the stage, it's important for you all to understand that throughout Big Brother 15, Amanda and Elissa were enemies. Not just game enemies, but like personal enemies. Although Elissa had said her fair share of mean things about Amanda, Amanda was the one leading the charge against Elissa. She would constantly torment her, make fun of her, bully her, and say every nasty thing in the book towards her. It was evil. So, when Amanda was sitting on the block at the final 7, it seemed pretty obvious to everyone that Elissa was going to evict Amanda. And even Amanda had come to the realization that she was going to get evicted, because in order for her to stay, she needed Elissa's vote to keep her. And yeah, that wasn't gonna happen. But Amanda was a fighter, and she gave her pitch to Elissa anyways as to why it made sense for Elissa to keep her, and she also offered up a deal. During this initial pitch, Elissa did not seem very receptive to what Amanda was saying. She gave lots of and short responses, and even ended their conversation with, "It's good that you're still trying," which, to me, is pretty indicative that Elissa was not being convinced by what Amanda was saying, and that was her nice way of saying, good effort, but no. However, this is when things start to get strange. Later that night, Elissa gets called to the diary room for a while, and immediately after she leaves the diary room, she hunts down Amanda to tell her that she thought over what they spoke about earlier and that she wanted to accept the deal and vote to keep her in the game. What? Where the hell did this come from? Well, the conspiracy theory is that this came from the diary room. It was a little too coincidental that before going into the DR, Elissa was ready to take out Amanda, her biggest enemy in the game, yet after coming out of the diary room, she was excitedly ready to take Amanda up on her deal and vote for her to stay. Amanda was a very polarizing, yet entertaining figure on the show, whereas the player sitting next to her on the block, Spencer, was a perpetual pawn and not really the star of the season. So when you take that information and combine that with the fact that Elissa and Amanda coming together after their season-long rivalry would make for a stellar storyline, it seems like there might have been a good bit of incentive for CBS to try and push Elissa in the direction of keeping Amanda in the game over Spencer. For me, the reason that I actually do believe in this theory is because of the complete tonal shift in Elissa from before she went into the DR and afterwards. Like, in my eyes, something had to have happened in there to flip some sort of switch in Elissa's mind. And my best guess is that it was the producers. For what it's worth, I actually did bring this up with Andy when I did my interview with him earlier this year. And he seems to think that this move was 100% Amanda and 0% production. And I feel like he probably would have a better grasp on the situation than I do. But I don't know. Even reading through some of the feed transcripts, earlier in that same day, before Amanda had pitched to Elissa, Amanda had been telling everyone that the diary room was consistently telling her to not roll over and die and to keep on fighting, which possibly led to her pitching to Elissa in the first place, which again just leads me to believe that at least to some degree, Big Brother was trying to push their agenda to try and keep Amanda in the game, even if it was just a little bit. So, sorry Andy, I do genuinely believe this theory to be true.
I know that this is kind of like a lost cause. If you kept me here, I would be loyal to you.
Yeah. I don't think she's taking too well to it. I have tortured her a lot.
Believe it or not, I am actually considering keeping Amanda in this game.
I want to vote for you this day. Come on, I swear to God.
This is only a game move, but I vote to evict Spencer.
But then Amanda ropes Elissa in, or I could just be like conspiracy theorizing. I've heard a lot of things where it's like the diary room convinced Elissa to work with Amanda, but
I also just don't really think they would have been like swaying her to do anything. They really didn't do that. I do think that it was probably like Amanda getting to her and being like, this makes sense. You know, we might hate each other, but like, it makes sense for you to keep me.
Last time, I dipped my toes into covering a celebrity Big Brother theory, and I had a fun time doing so. It seems that some of you enjoyed it too, because I got some other celebrity Big Brother theories, and this next one caught my eye. This is the theory that in Celebrity Big Brother 1, the producers rigged it so that Omarosa would receive safety on the first night to ensure that she wouldn't be the first boot. As I spoke about last time with Anthony Scaramucci being Big Brother's big draw for Season 2, Omarosa was the big draw for Season 1. Just like Scaramucci, Omarosa had a history of both working and being fired from the White House, with the latter happening mere months before her Celebrity Big Brother appearance. So Big Brother knew that the spotlight would be on Omarosa going into the season. Because of it, there was concern that Omarosa could be an easy player to target right off the bat, and Big Brother would not want to lose their star immediately after the season began. But, coincidentally, that fear was short-lived, because before the first HOH competition began, Big Brother announced that they would be handing out safety to one of the 11 celebrities in a random manner. There were 11 numbered stars on the ground, one for each celebrity in the house, and the celebrities had to go and stand behind one of the stars. Julie held an envelope containing the winning number, and whichever celebrity was standing behind the correct star would become immune for this first week. Omarosa went and stood behind star number 5. And what do you know, the winning number just so happened to be number 5, which granted Omarosa immunity in this first round and ensured that she would survive through the first few episodes. How awfully convenient that Omarosa just so happened to hit that 1 in 11 shot at safety. If you ask me, I think Omarosa was definitely told ahead of time to make sure that she chose star number 5 in order to ensure her safety. It is just too perfect that the biggest name just so happened to randomly get safety on the very first night. And it would be so easy for the producers to tip her off ahead of time and just say, choose number 5 and you'll be safe. It is totally possible that Omarosa was not told ahead of time and that she did genuinely happen to get lucky this round. But I would be willing to bet that Big Brother had a hand in ensuring her immediate safety. So for me, I would guess that this conspiracy theory is true.
I'm Omarosa, and
I had an opportunity to work in Washington in the Trump White House. I'm exceptional in everything that I do.
I need everyone to randomly choose a star. Whichever house guest is standing behind the winning star will be completely safe. Number 5. Congratulations, Omarosa, you are safe.
And lastly, for the final theory of the first 10 iterations, I have one that I feel really encapsulates what this series is all about. This is the conspiracy theory that Big Brother is just a completely rigged show. At least according to Zach Rains. Now, admittedly, I think Zach was just saying this as an overarching blanket statement to get his point across. But he did bring up 3 pieces of evidence from his season, Big Brother 16, all courtesy of an Instagram Live he had done with Kat Dunn 6 years after the fact. The first piece he talked about is something that I've actually already covered in the 2.0 version, where Zach went in depth about how he thought Frankie's Battle of the Block was rigged by production to ensure that he won. The next piece of evidence that he brought up was one time where he was standing outside of the diary room, and Victoria came out of the diary room crying, saying that the producers had just told her that everyone in the house was talking shit about her and that everyone was against her. And then, not even 20 seconds later, they called Zach into the diary room and told him not to believe anything that Victoria just said and that she was lying. Zach saw this as production getting caught with their pants down, trying to influence the game. And although I do think that the reason they told Zach that Victoria was lying is because this scenario falls under the category of Victoria using production as a strategy, which isn't allowed. It does make you think that maybe that rule is in place for this exact reason, so that the producers can tip off certain players about certain things and then forbid them from exposing that information to the other house guests. It's a bit suspicious, I won't lie. And then the last piece of evidence that Zach brought up was how he felt he was purposely given an advantage by the producers in the OTEV competition because he felt that the producers wanted him to win the competition in order to save himself. Zach was on the block going into OTEV, and he was in danger of going home. But as they were setting up for the competition, the showrunners told Zach that he was to start the competition out on the leftmost starting pedestal while OTEV did his introduction and all of that. From this position, Zach realized that he could look over the edge of the platform and see all the names that he would possibly need as answers. As he was sitting there gathering up all this crucial information, he had also realized that nobody else could see over and get the answers ahead of time. He was wondering, how did he get so lucky with this spot? And then it hit him that maybe it wasn't luck. He was told to go to that spot by the producers, leading him to believe that he was purposely given this advantage because the producers wanted him to win the competition and survive the week, which he ended up doing. Now, with all of this evidence, do I think Zach's claim that Big Brother is fully rigged to be true? Well, no. While I do think Big Brother definitely tries to influence particular moments to try and get an outcome that they would find desirable, the series wouldn't exist otherwise. I also think that we try to retroactively fit puzzle pieces together when in actuality, they're sometimes just coincidences. Like OTEV, for example. Someone had to be seated at the left end. If they put Zach there, then we could say that it was rigged for Zach to win. If they put anyone other than Zach there, then we could say that it was rigged for Zach to lose. It's easy after the fact to mold a situation into the agenda that you want to present if there's enough evidence there to make it at least the tiniest bit plausible. But that doesn't make it true. I'm certainly guilty of this, and I think Zach might be as well. It seems that Zach has a pretty big hatred for Big Brother, and because of that, it may have played a factor in him trying to pinpoint particular moments as rigging when they really just were the producers doing their job and moving the show along. But maybe Zach's right. Maybe it was all rigged. We'll probably never know, but that's what makes these things so fun to talk about. We don't know, so we speculate instead, and it keeps the conversation alive.
Well, this is the thing, like, Big Brother is extremely manipulative, and they rig everything. I mean, there's like 3 like blatant ways of Big Brother being rigged. It's extremely manipulated in the diary room. One day, Victoria comes out of the diary room crying. Production just told me that everyone's talking about me and everyone's against me. Not even 20 seconds later, Zach, please go to the diary room. They go, Zach, whatever Victoria just said, don't believe her. They go, Victoria, come back to the diary room. Victoria goes in the diary room. She comes back out of the diary room. Zach, I was lying. Production didn't tell me anything. Then Zach, come to the diary room. And I started screaming at them. You guys are telling Victoria I'm going to sue you guys, blah, blah, blah. The first was OTEV. So I was on the blog. They're telling us which place to stand at. Zach, you're there. Christine, you're there. I was on the end. And on the end of the podium, I was able to see over. I had a perfect view of the entire field. There's a Devin one. There's an Amber one. So when they said, okay, go find an Amber, I was like, there's one right there. But Donnie over there and Nicole over there, like, they can't see any of them.
And there we go. 50 conspiracy theories. Now, I'm not done with this series by any means. I definitely see at least 10 more theories in the future, if not more, so make sure you stick around for when the 11th iteration comes out. Thank you so much for watching and making it to this point. I, of course, need to give that extra special shout out to all of my YouTube members and patrons who have actually contributed many of the theories that I laid out for you today. And, as always, here's a ton of clips for you on your way out.
You want me to teach you some ultimate fighting?
Ultimate fighting?
Yeah.
I don't know. There's just something about a guy who can wrestle that I like.
It's actually hot in this room. Eric doesn't have any game with the chicks. I like blocking Eric when he decides to go for some personal time with Jess.
Oh. Eric. Oh, for the love of God.
He just taught me the clinch. You better watch out.
The clench? What's the clench?
Ooh, I kind of like the clench.
That's the clench?
Hello there. It's not part of the move.
Kristen, you are the definition of the word bitch. Who do you think you are trying to talk to Brendon behind my back? Don't ever try to get between me and my man. My man doesn't get manipulated by trifling hoes like you.
That looks like Germany was a pop.
I'm one of those guys who don't change no matter what. I don't go in the HOH room and say, ooh, this is so pretty. Your dog is cute. She got the ugliest damn dogs I ever seen.
I do like Cory. We have been getting really close, but he is a little bit of a project. Just gotta polish him up and make him the perfect man for me.
No,
Don't shave the
don't
mustache.
shave it off.
Really?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna take this lump of clay and mold it into the perfect boyfriend.
I have this girlfriend, America, who's making me wear bronzer and grow out what is potentially the worst facial hair in Big Brother history.
I am hoping to pick literally anybody but Cameron.
Santa for Christmas early. Do not pick Cameron's name.
Cameron.
Who would have guessed?
I do feel betrayed because Matt said I will never put you up. He's no different than everybody else. And take two of these, one for you and one for Jag. Matter of fact, there's an extra for Bowie J.
I think that was easy for me to make it to the end of that game. I think a lot of people look at me and say, oh, she just rode coattails. And I did. I'm very grateful for their coattails. It was a fun ride.
I wanted Cory to be the target this week. You're telling me you want to target Cameron. Like, girl, let me work some magic here.
Cory's for sure going after your ass next week.
Last week I was HOH and I got this amazing basket of charcuterie, but then I was the first to fall off the wall, so now this week I can only eat slop.
She's freaking eating my charcuterie stuff.
I don't mind sharing, but Brooklyn, she did not ask me.
I let it go to waste. I've already made it, the whole thing.
Lolo and I have a final two.
We have to think of a final two name.
Oh my God. How can I not check the room?
Natalie didn't know my ass was in the room.
Did you say final two?
That is what you said. I was like, yes, I know the name of the final two. Busted.com. Y'all busted. Okay?
Come on, Nicole. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I have been lying to all of you the entire game. My sister's Ariana Grande. So, I have been,
Oh my God!
I know you're convincing your sister's a millionaire, whatever it is, but you're not gonna ruin my game. I'm not a millionaire. I am playing this game for a charity.
I have no chance. I have no chance.
He's donating the money to kids in Africa. Why the isn't he not gonna win? Give him the money. I'm wasting my time right now.